Good afternoon, everybody. It's 2:04, and we will call the meeting, regular Board of Trustees meeting for the Washoe County School District to order for June 23rd, 2026. Madam Clerk, can I have the roll call, please?
You sure can. Trustee Hull is present. President Mayberry.
Here.
Trustee Nicolette.
Good afternoon.
Trustee Phoenix. Is he joining us virtually or?
We're having some issues, but yes.
Okay. So should I do delayed? Sorry. Trustee Smith.
Here.
Trustee Westlake.
Here.
Vice President Woodley.
Here.
And no student trustee, so. Quorum. Sorry, we have quorum. Sorry, totally distracted.
No, thank you, Madam Clerk. No, thank you. Item 1.03 is the Pledge of Allegiance, and the next time this body will meet, we will have celebrated the 250th anniversary of this great nation. So with that in mind, and with the fact that this is the last meeting of Superintendent Ernst, I'd like you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Item 1.04 is our land acknowledgement. I'll read our land acknowledgement for this meeting. We acknowledge that Washoe County School District schools and communities are situated on the traditional homelands of three major tribes of the Great Basin Native American people, including Northern Paiute, Washoe, and Shoshone tribes. We honor their ancestors, past and present, and recognize these lands as a continued gathering place for communities. We express our respect and gratitude for the opportunity to live, work, and learn here in Nevada. Item 2 is our consent agenda items. Items 2.1 to 2.02 to 2.20. I haven't had any feedback on any items to pull. I think Trustee Westlake wants to make a disclaimer.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Sorry. Thank you, President Mayberry. On 2.16, which is the approval to improve the bus drop-off at Billinghurst Middle School, awarded to Frank Lepre Construction. I just need to disclose that my husband had worked for Lepre Construction for over 30 years, but has since retired. He's no longer with Lepre Construction, and I have no connection to Lepre Construction, other than that he had worked there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Westlake. If I don't see any lights on, if I'm happy to entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items. And before I do that, though, I'm going to ask for public comment. Thank you. So are there any public comments for the consent item?
I have no cards for consent, and Trustee Phoenix is online.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Trustee Phoenix. Okay. Can I entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items 2.02 through 2.20?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes.
I move that the Board of Trustees approves consent agenda items 2.02 through 2.20.
I second.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Smith. Moved to approve consent agenda item, second by Trustee Woodley, Vice President Woodley. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries unanimously, and that was an aye from Trustee Phoenix.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, colleagues, now we're going to go into our items for presentation, discussion, information. These are all action items. I do want to remind everybody, please jot down any questions that you may have, trustees, along with the slide numbers that you'd like to reference or revisit for the presentations, as I always say, we hold all our questions until staff have completed their full presentations. This allows our staff to present the information in its entirety, ensures our community members who are watching can hear the full context and respect the time and preparation of our presenters. And in many cases, you may find that your questions are addressed as the presentation progresses, and then we'll open up for questions and discussions at the end. So with that, we'll move to item 3.01. This is the item addressing contract for Sierra Nevada Academy Charter School, snacks. Our presenters are up front and center. Chris Hackbush, Chief Secondary Academic Officer, and Nicole Johnson, Director of Secondary Academics and Assessment. Good afternoon. Good to see you. It's yours.
Good afternoon, President Mayberry, Superintendent Ernst, and our Board of Trustees. I'm Nicole Johnson, the Director of Secondary Academics and Assessment. So we are happy to be back here today with a presentation that brings clarity to the expectations that we have for Sierra Nevada Academy Charter School.
Okay. Good afternoon, Superintendent Ernst, President Mayberry, and Board of Trustees. Chris Hackbush, Chief Academic Officer for Secondary. I wanted to share the actions we've taken since June 9th Board of Trustees meeting on this topic. Staff reviewed the trustees' motion and notes taken during the June 9th, 2026 regular meeting with the Board of Trustees. We also, the academic team, met with the Nevada Charter School Public Affairs and Advocacy Group and the Charter School Association to discuss communication and alignment with Washoe County School District-sponsored charter schools. We consulted with Kyle Kemp from our accountability coordinator, and we developed a 2-star data simulation for snacks, which we'll dive into what that is a little bit later. We met with the legal counsel for snacks and provided a copy of the recharter contract with red line changes. And we met with Dr. Reagan, Executive Director of snacks.
So just a quick reminder, the legal requirement, NRS 388A 300 and SB 460. So that gives the option as a restart as an alternative to termination. And a restart would go towards a 6-year charter contract. So some of the general support and communication, this is an overview or overall supports that we provide to all of our charter schools. So we do have one charter school liaison, that's Ms. Rochelle Proctor. We provide access to training support and materials through our assessment support department. We have our Washoe County School District, what's called the academies. That is for our site principals and happens about 5 times per year. And other professional learning opportunities are available. We provide support from our special education department, our student enrollment and records, counseling, family school partnerships, the intervention department, school improvement through accountability, and access to ELD programming. We also provide guidance in HR-type matters such as employee compliance, staff management, student health regulations, and emergency services. We provide assistance with grant tracking, state reporting, and annual performance monitoring. And then one of the tasks that Rochelle Proctor, the charter school liaison, does for all of our charters is they do not have access to our district SharePoint. And so what she does is she takes those those documents available through our weekly department connection, which is a communication tool we use as a district. She takes those pertinent documents, converts them all to PDFs, and sends those out to the charters weekly to ensure that communication is updated.
Okay, so to establish the goalposts here, our approach was simple. Provide increased clarity of academic expectations and monitoring, clear expectations for timeliness, and the board's consideration to increase the sponsorship fee.
So we're going to go through items 1 through 5 and split item 1 up. So this is just an overview. We're going to go a little deeper into each one of these. So we're going to start by looking at performance-based termination provisions that were as part of discussion at the June 9th meeting and look at the SNACS performance management plan. The other part of the academics piece is 1B, so we set some clear expectations for improvement on the Nevada School Performance Framework, the NSPF, as measured by the index points. The second part is increased monitoring by our district staff. The third, requirement of timely completion of all required deliverables by district staff with no delays during the next 2 years. We'll talk about compliance with all federal, state, and district grant requirements. And then there was discussion of an increase of sponsorship fee to 2%. So diving a little deeper into the parameters around 1A. So what you see there is just a visual representation. You have both of these attachments. So the first one is the Washoe County School District Charter School Performance Framework. This is also referred to as the Charter Annual Monitoring Tool. This tool is used with all of our charter schools, and the expectation is that there is satisfactory compliance in all 3 areas. So we're talking about academics, operation, and financial pieces. And we have a team that looks at each of those sections together. What you see in attachment C is what we discussed last meeting on June 9th. So it's the SNACS Performance Management Plan. This plan is the work that Dr. Reagan and her team and her consultant put in to come up with some action steps to help guide them towards earning the 2 stars. So it's what they feel they need to do as their school site. So these 2 pieces together are worked into the charter contract as performance-based termination provisions. And Chris will go a little bit more into depth on what the exact numbers are with that.
Okay, if we go into the student achievement improvements, so improvement is measured by index points, the star rating, on the Nevada School Performance Framework. SNACS must earn a minimum of 27 index points on the NSPF by the end of the 2-year time frame. We landed on the 27 points with the end in mind. 27 will reach is the bottom of the 2-star rating, okay? That, we went with that versus a 7 to 10 like growth, and we thought that was a little bit more clear, okay? Year 1, we break it down. It's important to understand that September 15th is when we'll get baseline data from our schools. So we will know their baseline data after September 15th. So that's why the clock really starts for the 26-27 school year, and year 2 being the 27-28 school year. To help and to visualize what that might look like in a 2-year frame, we worked with our accountability office in Kyle Kemp. They did a wonderful job, and they provided a simulation of a 2-year roadmap to a 2-star rating based on, again, looking at their management plan and looking at their data to really, in essence, find where they could grow the quickest, okay? Where is the low-hanging fruit within their data that they can target and focus to reach that? Now, we've done this with our principals in our district with success. We've had over 40 schools grow plus 10 index points in a year. So this is a very attainable goal. I think it's very clear and focused for them. And I applaud our accountability office with the help on in the short-term time frame to make that happen. And I think that's it. Attachment D will have the 2-year simulation graphics for you if you're interested.
So those 2 pieces together hit the academic focus that we just talked about, 1A and 1B. So the second part we're looking at is increased monitoring by district staff. And the way we're defining that is in addition to the annual charter school performance framework, which is that attachment B, we are going to conduct 2 additional site visits, so 1 in the fall and 1 in the spring. We will also add bi-monthly check-ins from SNACS to us, and this is where they're going to report progress on what their plan is, the SNACS Performance Management Plan, and again, that's attachment C. And so we're going to look at how they're doing on both of those pieces and provide support and direction if needed to help them attain that 27 index points.
Okay, now we're going to shift gears to the deliverables. The required timely completion of deliverables. SNAC shall be in compliance with all required deliverables, and those are defined as compliance with all federal, state, and district grant requirements, deadlines, and timelines, and compliance with any other federal, state, district deadlines or other requirements, including timely completion and submission of requested and required documents and/or information. So to make this more concrete, they would be in breach of this agreement if 3 minor violations or a single material failure were to occur. Minor can be missed, minor are missed district deadlines that are internal, that we are doing for the system in order for us to meet the hard deadlines. Single material failure is missing a hard deadline that is set by the federal government, state, district, and it causes a disruption to Washoe County School District earning, gaining funds, allocations, et cetera. We define the deliverables, clear and fair expectations. There's a clear definition of the minor and single material failures. And again, this is aligned to the language of our agreement and our contract.
Okay, that brings us to the fifth part, which was discussion around including an increase of sponsorship fee to 2%. And this is just a quick reminder of the NRS statute that gives this board the ability to do that if you so choose. That brings us to the superintendent's recommendation. And so the recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approves the Restart Charter Contract for Sierra Nevada Academy Charter School, which includes the additions of, and this goes in order of our presentation, so those performance-based termination measures under 1A and 1B, the increased monitoring by district staff, the bi-monthly check-ins, both of those create Section 2 that we discussed earlier, timely completion of all district required deliverables that hit point 3 and 4 in the presentation, and then a potential increase of the charter sponsorship fee by 0.5% from 1.5 to 2% annually, and that was the fifth part that we discussed. And we are ready for any questions for you.
Great presentation. Thank you very much. Outstanding. Any clarifying questions, colleagues? Clerk Cole.
I don't have any questions particularly. I just want to just say that I appreciate all parties meeting in the end of the school year, during graduations, during finalizing everything and getting this done in 2 weeks' time. I just think that that is incredibly commendable. And I really, really appreciate everybody's hard work on this, on both SNAC side and the Washoe County School District side. I think that is, it was a sort of a last minute thing, clearly, when we had this conversation, and I know that there was some trepidation of getting it done, and you all did, and it feels, to me, it feels like we landed at a place that we can support them and get them to this place, which is what their kids deserve. And so I just want to commend you all for doing that. Great job to SNACs. I know there's quite a few friends from SNACs over there, so I just, great job to you guys, and great job to your department and your offices. Thank you.
Keith, there aren't any clarifying comments. What I'd like to do is just go to public comment, then we can bring it back for further discussion, deliberation. So as a reminder, comments are limited to 3 minutes and must pertain to the agenda item. If you have comments not on the topic, they can be provided during the general public comment period. Additionally, if you submit a comment to the public comment email address, that would count as your public comment for the agenda item. So JJ, any public comment for item 3.01?
Tamara Gavin.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to speak with you today. My name is Tamara Gavin, and I'm a lifelong educator, working in both the public and private school systems as an administrator, principal, education director, and most importantly, a teacher. Moving from Florida 2 years ago, I decided that I wanted to make a big impact, or as big as possible. And I wanted the children I serve to have the best opportunities possible, so I decided to go back into the classroom. When I discovered the play model at Sierra Nevada Academy Charter School, I knew that this was the perfect school for me. We know that every student needs time and individual attention, but educators frequently throw up their hands and say, how could we possibly have enough time to do that? Imagine walking into a classroom and instead of seeing students glued to their chairs, eyes glazed over, listening to a teacher regurgitate their way of learning, while reaching probably only 10% of the students. Now imagine walking into a snacks classroom where the students are engaged, actively choosing what they're learning and how they will deliver it back, and where the teacher spends 95% of the day cycling students through their levels at the teacher center, where they're being instructed at their own levels, have time to connect with the teacher one-on-one, and that's where true relationships and learning occurs. In the time spent together, my students were able to learn at their level, ask questions, and make long-term connections while I was learning equally as much. I learned that a student had just lost a parent, didn't have a stable living condition, and I learned that some just wanted a better life. The depth of understanding that would never be possible at a traditional school, and students that were serving at snacks may never have had a chance. If it weren't for this unique and engaging style of education, they may have been lost. After working with these students for the past 2 years, I was truly astounded at their progress, growing 2 iReady grade levels in 1 year, and even more than that, they were loving learning and wanting to do their best. The students loved the play model and Choice Center so much that we found ourselves accidentally missing recess, and they actually wanted to stay inside and continue working on their centers. Most of my students attend our play-style tutoring sessions, and again, they didn't want to go home because they were truly enjoying learning. During tutoring, I was astonished that an EL student who truly struggled to express himself verbally actually played as the teacher with a group of his peers and led an entire ELA session with perfect intonation. Another student whose parents were worried that she had dyslexia not only learned to identify and write her letters, words, and sentences perfectly, but improved almost 300% on iReady, ELA, and math this year, and now she's an avid reader. Though sometimes it can be difficult to measure the success of a school or a classroom, we can easily see that Snacks has empowered these students to meet their goals, and they have discovered that learning is fun. I am very confident that Sierra Nevada Academy Charter School can earn 2 stars on the NSPF. As a teacher, I absolutely love this school, and I am in full support of the request for the charter restart approval, and I'm asking for you to grant that approval.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Ms.
for letting me speak with you today.
Thank you, Ms. Gavin. We appreciate your time. Thank you for coming.
Robert Fragles.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. President Mayberry, trustees, Superintendent Ernst, and members of the community here, thank you for allowing me to speak with you. I'm Robert Ingalls. I think my handwriting was bad. I'm the Associate Director of Snacks, and I'm proud to share the progress and projections that our school has made over the past 2 years through 3 important indicators. Our iReady academic data shows significant growth from fall to spring for this school year. 30% or more of our students in reading and math moved from a level 1 or 2 proficient in the fall to a level 3 or 4. We've also made tremendous growth this year. 66% of students made a minimum of a grade level of growth in math, and 72% of students made a minimum grade level of growth in reading. This reflects the hard work of our students, teachers, staff, and the changes as we reach for more proficiency. We anticipate continued increases in this performance and measures on the NSPF. Our family engagement survey results more than doubled from 43 responses to 101 responses, providing broader and more representative picture of family perceptions. Families reported improvements in communication, quality of education, relationships, respect, school support, physical safety. Most notably, perceptions of physical safety increased from 76% to 97%, while quality of education increased from 80% to 92%. These results show that families are recognizing the positive changes taking place and starting to believe in the direction of our school. Our discipline data also shows remarkable improvement. Major discipline incidents over the last 2 years reduced from 83 to 16. That is a 81% reduction. That's demonstrative of the changes in culture that we're making among our staff and students. When we look at all these measures together, a clear story is coming to light. Students are achieving at higher levels, families are engaged and confident in our school, and student behavior is improving dramatically, reflecting the culture and climate work we have done. These results are not an accident. They are the outcome of committed staff, supportive families, dedicated district partners, and students who rise to high expectations every day. We recognize that there's still work ahead, but we hope that this demonstrates meaningful progress and provides strong evidence that our school is moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ingalls. Appreciate your time.
Eduardo Martinez.
Good afternoon, Mr. Martinez.
Good afternoon, President Mayberry and members of the Board of Trustees for Washoe County School District. Yes, my name is Eduardo Martinez. I'm here on behalf of Western Public Affairs and the Charter School Association of Nevada. We just wanted to show our support for the superintendent's recommendations and the board's recommendations in supporting the snacks application for restart. We also want to say we appreciate the opportunity we had to speak with Mr. Hackbush and his team about our members, and look forward to having a open communication with them and being collaborative partners with the school district going forward. We're happy to be a resource and look forward to continued engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez.
The board received emails from Dr. Kimberly Reagan and William Eaton related to this item.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment on this item, bring back to the board for further discussion, deliberation. Vice President Woodley.
Thank you. I wasn't able to be here for the item at the last meeting. I had to leave early, but I did listen, and there's a lot of good discussion here between my colleagues. You guys did a great job, and I also want to appreciate staff for following up on all that, because just the conversation itself, I was trying to catch it all. So for you guys to catch it all and go back and actually bring it to fruition, this is awesome. This is amazing. Thank you to you, and thank you to Snacks for working with you. And this is great collaborative work. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Nicolette.
Thank you. Initially, Washoe County School District onboarded charter schools as kind of an incubator so we could learn and grow together. And to that, you mentioned change in culture and climate several times, which is extremely important. In fact, our current superintendent wears his hat on that one because it's so very important. So if you don't mind, I would like to know, when you refer to the change in the culture and the climate, what are you doing that's making a positive change? And I ask very sincerely because I think we could all learn from it.
Best example of this is the discipline metrics that we've had. Before I moved into a leadership position, we had 117 something suspensions and major incidents. When I came in, we agreed we were going to implement restorative practices as with as much fidelity as possible. We do our best not to suspend unless it's absolutely it's required, or it's pervasive behavior that we need to take that kind of extreme step in. I've been at Snacks for 13 and a half, 14 years now, so I have a relationship with almost every family already, and so that's really a great stepping stone for me being in a leadership position. I feel like I've already kind of gained their trust. And also in terms of staff culture, just making sure we are training our staff on the model. How do we implement it? What do we need it to look like every day, instead of, not having that consistency across all our grade levels.
Thank you. Yeah, and Trustee Nicolette, your question was directed to Mr. Ingalls. Is that correct?
Anybody?
Okay. What I don't want this to be is sort of this colloquy between trustees and members of the public. Okay, so I'm going to direct it back to staff respectfully, and then if there are some questions from Snacks individuals in particular, let's be specific with those questions. I will ask them to come to the podium, be direct with their response, but I don't want to usurp. I don't want to get engaged in the dialogue. I don't want to usurp what the staff has already done. Okay, so do you have any other questions, Dr. Nicolette?
To that, thank you, and I appreciate that approach, I really do, because that could have been lengthy. To the staff that's been working on this, how would you define a change, positive changes in the culture and climate? Again, I ask because I think I go back to that incubator model. What can we learn together? Why would we do this if we're just all working in isolation? So let's learn together. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll jump in first on culture and climate. I would say family engagement is key. Clarity of communication, two-way communication with your families, continuity with staff on goals, and approaches to how you communicate with staff, students. So that's what I would say is the first step, is that family. It's a we endeavor, is what I would say.
Thank you, Trustee Nicolette. Any other? Yes, Trustee Westlake.
Thank you, President Mayberry. And this is directed towards staff, but you might need to phone in a friendly from Snacks. At the last meeting, we didn't go into it a lot because there was so much discussion. It was just, you're right, Trustee Woodley, Vice President Woodley. I mean, it was just back and forth, growth, index points, growth. I mean, but I do feel hopeful. But one thing, and I mentioned this in my visit to Snacks, is that it resides in a very far out location. So I guess I want to see if there's anything in place, family engagement, but to engage the parents on the importance of their children attending the school, because that will be counted against Snacks. And I mean, it's not necessarily in their control, other than if there are things in place to really get the parents on board of the importance of getting to Snacks for their children. Thanks.
So one thing, Nicole Johnson for the record, one thing I wanted to mention is when Mr. Hackbush and I had our very first visit to Snacks, they were getting ready for a family engagement event. And I remember Dr. Reagan talking about the huge turnout that they were anticipating, and that each year it grows and grows. They had a lot of different things that were getting ready to be put up, and it stimulated a lot of excitement, and a lot of questions. So I can speak to that and then defer to Dr. Reagan to fill in those gaps.
Dr. Reagan, would you like to answer that question, please? Thank you. And if I can just have you be short and succinct, please.
Yes, of course. So, of course, family engagement is huge for us, and we do have meetings with families about the importance of school and trying to teach them how to help their students at home to support them in school. And then we do address chronic attendance and why that's so important. And we do raffles for people who bring in doctor's notes. And, we do reward systems for not only the students, but the staff. And we try to make the funnest part of the day at the very beginning. So the kids are like, I gotta get to school, because it's so fun at the beginning of the day. Not that later is not, but the more we can incentivize students to be at school, they're going to push for their families. I will tell you, Mr. I, who's sitting here, actually went and changed a tire for a parent on the side of the road because they didn't have a way to get to school and they had a flat tire. So any way that we can engage our families and support them in getting their students to school, we make every effort to do so.
Thank you, Dr. Reagan. Any other comments, questions? Okay. I'm happy to entertain a motion.
If I may.
Vice President Woodley.
President Mayberry. I move that the Board of Trustees approves the Restart Charter Contract for Sierra Nevada Academy Charter School, which includes additions of performance-based termination provisions aligned to the Washoe County School District Charter School Performance Framework, SNAC School Performance Management Plan, and the requirement to earn a minimum of 27 points on the Nevada School Performance Framework over the next 2 years, concluding with the 2027-28 school year. Also increased monitoring by district staff through annual site visits, one in the fall and one in the spring. Also bi-monthly check-ins from SNACS to the district reporting progress on the SNACS School Performance Management Plan and timely completion of all district-required deliverables and compliance with all federal, state, and distinct grant requirements, and an increase in the charter sponsorship fee by 0.5% from 1.5% to 2.0% annually.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to approve item 3.01 as stated by Vice President Woodley, a second by Trustee Westlake. Any other further questions, comments? Seeing none? Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Hackbush, Ms. Johnson, great work. As Vice President Woodley said, we appreciate the collaboration with SNACS, and to Dr. Reagan and your staff, thank you for your due diligence and working with us. We're rooting for you. Best of luck. Okay, have a wonderful summer. Thank you all. Okay, item 3.02 is the approval of award for third-party health administrator services for employee health benefits, Anthem Blue Cross. Our presenters are Mark Mathers, our Chief Financial Officer, Andrea Sullivan is our Senior Director of Supply Chain Management, and Mackenzie Howen is our Benefits Manager. Good afternoon, welcome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you know, do you want to make that disclaimer now? You want to do it? Yeah, you know, we do have some disclaimers to make. I know the General Counsel reached out to all of us, so we'll go ahead and do that now to kind of clear the air, I guess. Let's see a couple lights on. We'll start with Trustee Smith.
Thank you, President Mayberry. For the record, I would like to disclose that I participate in the district's health insurance program, which is a benefit available to trustees. While this item relates to a contract for third-party administrator services supporting the district's health insurance plan, my participation in the program is no greater than that of other similarly situated individuals, including employees and other trustees who elect to receive district health insurance coverage. I am able to consider this item fairly and impartially, and my participation in the district's health insurance program will not influence my judgment or decision-making on this matter.
Thank you, Trustee Smith. Vice President Woodley.
Thank you. I, too, for the record, would like to disclose that I participate in the district's health insurance program, which is a benefit available to trustees. While this item relates to a contract for third-party administrative services supporting the district health insurance plan, my participation in the program is no greater than that of other similarly situated individuals, including employees and other trustees who elect to receive district health insurance coverage. I am able to consider this item fairly and impartially, and my participation in the district health insurance program will not influence my judgment or decision-making on this matter. Thank you.
And Trustee
Thank
Westlake,
you.
sure.
Thank you. I also want to read the disclosure that I participate in the district's health insurance program, which is a benefit available to trustees. While the item relates to a contract for third-party administrator services supporting the district's health insurance plan, my participation in the program is no greater than that of other similarly situated individuals, including employees and other trustees who elect to receive district health insurance coverage. I am able to consider this item fairly and impartially, and my participation in the district's health insurance program will not influence my judgment or decision-making on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Westlake. And I don't use the insurance, so I don't have anything to say. I'm just happy to be here. Trustee, Clerk Hull.
That was my question. So last year, when we did have a health
Right.
insurance item, Neil asked
Go ahead
for
and-
all of us
yeah.
to clarify if we do use it or not. So
Yeah.
I was just going to say that I do not. I do not personally partake in it, so I just wanted to.
Sure.
Ditto.
I love those short answers. And this Trustee Phoenix is up online. Yes, sir, go ahead.
All right. No, I do not participate, and so I'll just keep it short and sweet. So there you go.
Okay, outstanding. Okay, we got that covered. It's your show. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. I'm Mackenzie Howard, Benefits Manager for the record. I have the honor of presenting alongside Andrea Sullivan, our Director in Business. We too are happy to be here to share what the past 6 months have looked like to go through this request for proposal for our health insurance third-party administrator. Before we get into the presentation, I want to ground us in what we actually did, what it means to go out to bid for a third-party administrator. So WCSD runs a health insurance plan that is self-funded. So that means we have a process to oversee our plan document, which outlines the coverage that anyone who is enrolled on our coverage has access to. We also have processes that help us determine our premium rates, what our funding revenues look like, and what our spend looks like. In order for a self-funded plan to be successful, it's imperative that we partner with a strong TPA, a third-party administrator. This TPA helps us implement the plan document and the revenue and the spend that I just described. So, what was the purpose of our RFP? Well, it was to ensure that our current TPA, we wanted to make sure to go out to market and ensure that our current TPA is still providing a high value to our organization. As a self-funded entity, we have a high responsibility to ensure that the value we're still receiving from our TPA is accurate and consistent.
Good afternoon, Andrea Sullivan, for the record, Senior Director of Supply Chain Management for the district. Before I walk you through the timeline, I do just want to say, for the record, this was a very thorough, formal RFP process. So this is obviously something that impacts every single staff member in the district, so its impact is far-reaching. We took it very seriously. The process was overseen by the purchasing department. I myself personally was very involved with this, as well as Senior Buyer Lori Ramirez, who did a ton of work for this. So we resourced it appropriately for the impact it has to the district. We also worked very closely, obviously, with Mackenzie Howard and Benefits and with the Chief HR Officer, Doug Owen. We also got a very broad committee because it's so far-reaching. We had invitations out to all of the bargaining units to provide a representative, and ultimately had representation from WEA. And our WEA representative is also on the insurance committee, so he brought sort of a dual perspective to the committee. We had WIPTA and WESP. We had the Police Officers Association as well as the Principals Association, all represented on the committee. And then we also had, obviously, HR representation. We had finance representation. We had legal representation on the committee, as well as an outside member who is a health insurance consultant. And then finally, we also had LP Insurance assisting the whole time. So they are our contracted health insurance broker, and they helped walk us through everything. They helped us with build the scope of work to make sure it was thorough, and they also came to all of our committee meetings, to explain to committee members what they were reading, what it meant, because we're not all insurance experts. So we put a lot of time and energy and thought into this, and I just wanted you to know that because it's such an impactful RFP. So we spent from October to February collaborating between mostly with HR and the LP insurance consultants, but also the purchasing department to build a really strong scope of work. And so we did that from October to February, and then we issued the RFP on the 13th of February. We accepted questions, and we had a lot of questions that we answered via addendum, and then proposals were due on March 13th. We also conducted a committee training because this one's a little bit more technical than some of the other RFPs. So we had a training after the committee members had received their proposals and had started to look through them. We held a little training that was facilitated by Mackenzie and LP Insurance, just to, again, define some terms for them, what a TPA does, what it doesn't do, right? They're not actually providing the health insurance, we're self-insured, but they are providing administration services for it. We let them ask any questions they had at the time, but we just wanted them to feel like going into reading the proposals that they were a little bit more prepared than they were before they started that training. After that was over, they had time to read all of the proposals and came to a committee meeting on the 6th of April. At that meeting, they read or they discussed all of the proposals and ultimately chose their finalists for interviews, and the interviews were held on the 21st of April. And then on May 1st, we issued our letter of intent with our chosen vendor, which was Anthem. We conducted contract negotiations for the month of May, and it took the month of May to do it. I think it ends up being something like a 90-page contract. So we took May to do that, and then we're here today for you to make a final decision. So that's sort of the timeline that we went through. I'll pass it back to Mackenzie.
So Andrea started to describe the proposal that we put out that potential proposals could be submitted to. And so these are really high level what we asked proposers to speak to. So we asked them to speak to the medical, prescription, and dental plan administration, and this helps us implement eligibility and enrollment for all of our members. Currently, if we look at the employees, retirees, and dependents that are enrolled on our plan, we have about 12,000 lives. So we needed to ensure that whoever we selected for our TPA was able to manage that high volume, not only of enrollment and eligibility, but also claims administration, right? So farther down, we talk about claims processing and customer service. So you can imagine the number of claims that 12,000 lives incur is pretty large. And so we needed to ensure that whoever we selected for our TPA was able to not only support customer service with explanation of benefits issues, but also are able to process that sheer number of claims. Because we are self-funded, we have a large responsibility to oversee the reporting and analytics, and this really relates to the compliance components that we're required to follow both at the federal and state level. And then again, because we are self-funded, it's important for us to consistently check in on the plan's performance. We know that we know that healthcare isn't just going to the hospital when something's wrong. It also involves preventative care. And so that's why we have a strong wellness program that we run in-house, but having a TPA that also supports and understands the value of preventative care and having a strong wellness program not only supports our department in the partnership that we have with our TPA, but it also supports our members and employees in carrying out healthy behaviors. The last component that we included in the RFP was optional, and that is our COBRA administration. So COBRA is a federal law that allows folks whose health insurance has terminated to stay on our plan temporarily. So we included that as an optional to see what it could look like, but it was not required. So that's what we went out to bid for. That's what we asked proposers to speak to. But then how did we actually grade them and bring forward a recommendation to you all today? And so Andrea spoke to the committee, and again, it was a diverse committee to ensure that we had lots of different perspectives to speak to the complexities of health insurance. So we had the committee look at these 7 categories: the price schedule, financial stability, employee components, TPA services, data and reporting, integration with other vendors, and we needed to ensure that they meet compliance requirements. So in the board documentation, attachment A shows the breakdown of the evaluation criteria that we utilized, and it shows the breakdown of the scoring that the committee actually determined. I wanted to highlight 3 of these because they're somewhat vague if you were not involved in this for 6 months. So the employee components, this speaks to the customer service components that I just talked to, right? What are the hours of your customer service line? Is there AI support? Is there only a phone number? Can I email you? Things of that nature. The TPA services speak to the partnership. So because it is such a large plan to implement, I am in constant communication and collaboration with our TPA. And so we wanted them to speak to what type of collaboration and partnership they'd be willing to engage with us. And then the last one I wanted to highlight was the integration with other vendors. Because we are bringing forward a 5-year contract today, we wanted to ensure that they were able to integrate with Oracle. That's a large project that HR, IT, and business is taking on, and we would be doing our district a disservice if we did not ensure that they could integrate with Oracle.
Okay. Okay, we received 4 proposals. You can see who we received from. One of them was determined not to meet the requirements of the RFP because they didn't offer hospital services from all of the Northern Nevada hospitals. And one of the things we learned from the last RFP is how important it was to staff to have some choice. So one of the requirements of this RFP was that they had to have contracts with all the Northern Nevada hospitals, so the Renowns, the St. Mary's, Northern Nevada facilities, Carson Tahoe. So we wanted to make sure that those requirements were met. So one company was found not to meet those. And then we discussed and voted on the other 3 and decided to bring all 3 of them back to interviews. Felt like their proposals were strong enough that they were worth bringing on as finalists. We moved them on as finalists, held those meetings, and then ultimately selected Anthem. I do want to give a real big shout out to the committee here. They provided really great input, and they asked really great questions. They asked really great questions of all of the finalists. They asked great questions in the committee. You could tell they were informed, and when they didn't know or understand something, they asked about it, and they took their job very seriously. And I also want you to know that this wasn't like, oh, we're just going to check a box to make sure Anthem is still okay. We had these conversations that you had to come in with an open mind, and we had to make the decision that was best for the school district. And if that meant making a change, that's what we would do. And everybody seemed very open about it. Nobody seemed to be just, one side only, either for or against Anthem. But in the end, the decision was clear in that the points from the committee members, it wasn't close between first, and second. And it was a unanimous decision that all committee members voted Anthem first. So this recommendation will allow staff and dependents to have a choice of any Northern Nevada hospital. And because we are not making a change, there won't be any disruption in providers. And sometimes there is, right? The last time we did this 7 years ago, we did make a change and there was some disruption, and that can be difficult, but at the time it was the best decision for the district and we were willing to take that change on. But since everybody clearly chose Anthem for this, the benefit of that is that there won't be any disruption. So with that, we'd like to make the recommendation that you approve the request for proposal for TPA services and award it to Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Nevada. And as a reminder, it will cover medical, prescription, dental, wellness, EAP programs, network access, claims administration. It's kind of, a whole lot of services bundled all into one. And we're asking that this be awarded for an initial 5-year term. That term will begin January 21st, 2027 and end December 31st, 2031. Estimated value of $15,569,289.12. So with that, we are open for any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Any clarifying questions before we open up for public comment? Yes, Trustee Smith, please.
Thank you, President Mayberry. So thank you so much for this work, and I'm particularly glad that Mackenzie is wearing white because she is truly an angel. We have an outstandingly good benefits team, and so I just want to preface that. So my questions and my point of clarification, we don't get to do this very often, we don't go out to bid with these. And so something that I'd like to bring attention to and just ask some questions with and make some recommendations about our own responsibility in the process involves pharmacy benefit managers. So for those in the room or listening who do not know what a pharmacy benefit manager is, could you explain it super quick?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ever short-winded. No. Mackenzie Arn, for the record. A pharmacy benefit manager is the same thing as a TPA, but they focus specifically on pharmacy and prescription drug administration. Pharmacy is a very complicated aspect of health insurance. There is a lot of federal regulations, and so PBMs focus specifically on that and the administration of drugs.
And then we have a pharmacy benefit manager, right, in this plan?
So Anthem would oversee, as our TPA, what we're recommending today, Anthem would oversee the entire plan. They work with a PBM, which is called Carelon. So if you are ever on the Sydney Health app and you see information about Carelon, that is our PBM. They are owned by Anthem, and so Anthem is their parent company, so we would be working with both of them.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so I will start with my questions on this. So I have a lot of experience with this, and so I'll just disclose, I don't mind. Maybe everyone doesn't know, you will now, that I had cancer, and the larger sphere of my health, I have a primary immune deficiency, and so I get to enjoy our insurance really deeply, as I'm sure some of our members do. So a few questions, just to make sure that we're very aware of how all of these moves happen within insurance. So for example, in late 2025, I believe around October, Anthem moved from CVS Specialty Pharmacy to a new Anthem-owned specialty pharmacy called Paragon. And just so if everybody's keeping track, we've got Anthem, who administers our benefits. Anthem owns the pharmacy benefit manager, and then they switched us over from CVS Specialty Pharmacy to, again, an Anthem-owned specialty pharmacy. So my question is, did we approve that or did we know about it?
So in the 90-page contract that Andrea referenced, there is language that speaks to us accepting the PBM and the specific changes that PBM has to follow. One of the responsibilities of a PBM is ensuring that they're in compliance and then implementing a pharmacy plan with stewardship. And that involves including cost as a component, right? It ensures that folks are looking at, and by folks I mean the PBM, is looking at things like the formulary, the cost of the drugs that are on the current formulary, what the outcome of those are. So not only cost, but is it medically necessary for folks to be on these drugs? Is there anything better out there that we could be putting on a formulary? And so our contract kind of outlines that we will be following the changes that our PBM does agree to.
For the administration of the specialty pharmacy, though, our plan had CVS Specialty Pharmacy, and then in October of 2025, Anthem moved us over to their owned specialty pharmacy. So my question is did they tell you and did we approve that? Because I'm just curious, as they move us to more and more companies that they own, are we even alerted to that?
So we are alerted to, because there's many components, right? When we look at drug programs, there's the formulary of what drugs are actually approved to be covered. And then there's pharmacies that folks have access to. And then specialty drug programs are an entirely different component. And so we are made aware of potential changes to any of those three areas. But on the most basic level, folks can still access different levels of pharmacy, whether the specialty program is with Carelon or CVS, for example.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I really appreciate all the time that you put into answering my questions from yesterday. And you do a truly wonderful job. The situation that I was in that I'm really highlighting is, and Mackenzie knows this full well, although you can't disclose it, I can. I am well managed on a medication and had been on it for years, including by our own insurance. And then solely due to a small savings on the part of the pharmacy benefit manager, they were looking to move me off my medication. And it was a really stressful situation to be in. I mean, upwards of probably 150 to 200 man hours for all the people involved with this. And really the challenge for that for any of our members is that in certain situations when a pharmacy benefit manager is chasing a rebate, there is the potential, and I was told this, in this case, that these decisions are being made to really secure a rebate as opposed to really affecting patient outcomes. And where that becomes difficult is that, and I'll get to where I'm going with this, I have no problem with the item and I'll be supporting it, but the point that I'm making is that few people have as much privilege as I have in this situation. I speak English as a first language. I know my way around a call tree with an insurance company. I know how to advocate for myself. I have a doctor that's game to chase down absolutely everything that the insurance company is willing to throw at me, and you are absolutely the biggest tool because you were incredibly helpful with that. But where I'm going with this is that I also feel if we choose to have a pharmacy benefit manager, we also have responsibility with it. So are you able to confirm that, that you as the administrators of it are staying in close contact with your contacts at Anthem to really monitor how these decisions are being made, you know, to avoid situations like this? Because I would never want anybody in WCSD and any member of our family or a family member of them. So do we have that situation well overseen in this new contract?
I think that, not the difficulties of the situation that you're speaking to, but I think that the process and the partnership that you're speaking to that is required of our benefits department, our TPA, and our PBM are one of the reasons why conducting a formal RFP like this is very healthy to engage in every few years, right? It allows us to level set on expectations. It allows us to look at the contract again and ensure that everyone's on the same page and what our expectations are, what's within our TPA scope, what's within our scope. And so I do think that this was a good opportunity. The timing aligned relatively well to the scenario you're talking about. So I do think we're well equipped to engage in that moving forward in 2027.
I really appreciate that. And I had no idea that apparently this process was underway while this was happening and I'm sure there's obviously thousands of people doing with so many things, but I appreciate you confirming that we have the safeguards in place. So while formulary changes are expected and necessary, that we're not necessarily trying to move people solely for no other reason than, in my case, a $100 rebate. Because when our members are put in situations where they're asked to discontinue life-critical medication, like I could very well die without my medication, and that's very literal. To just have that feeling that maybe a company is chasing a dollar rather than the value of any of our lives is really important. And again, you did really, really fantastic with this. So thank you so much. I appreciate you assuring this body and me and all of our members. And again, I want to thank you for all that you've done up to this point. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Smith. Dr. Nicolette.
Thank you. I want to make a motion, and I just want to be clear because I've got some conflicting numbers. The term is for 5 years, beginning January 1st, 2027, and ending December 31st, 2031, correct? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
And just so you know, the agenda title does have 2032, but it does say a 5-year term, so I think that it's still accurate in terms of the 5-year term. But just note for the motion, it's the 2031 date.
Okay, if there aren't any more clarifying questions, I appreciate your desire to make a motion, but I do gotta go to public comment first. Any more clarifying questions before I go to public comment? Okay, we'll go ahead and open public comment.
I have no cards for this item.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Trustee Nicolette,
I would be happy to make a motion.
please.
All right. I approve that the Board of Trustees, I move that the Board of Trustees approves the award of request for proposal RFP number 89-P-02-26-LR, third-party administrator TPA services for employee health benefits to Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield Anthem for a term of 5 years beginning January 1st, 2027 and ending December 31st, 2031 in the estimated amount of $15,569,289 and 12 cents. Yeah. This has a comma. I was beginning to question myself. Let me try that one more time. The estimated amount of $15,569,289.12. Exactly.
Thank you.
It only happens like this when it's a January 1st start date and a December 31st end date. Otherwise,
There you go.
you can add 5, but this is probably the confusion.
President, Alex Woodley, second.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. So we got a motion on the floor to approve item 3.02 by trustee Nicolette, a second by Vice President Woodley. Is there any further discussions? Yes, no, okay, very good, all right. Okay, seeing no, we'll go ahead and call for the question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Trustee Phoenix, are you an affirmative?
Yes, affirmative,
Okay.
aye.
All right, all opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Howen, and thank you, Ms. Sullivan. We appreciate your time and all the work that you did to bring this item forward. Item 3.03 is presentation discussion on the CIP. With us is Adam Searcy, our Chief Operating Officer. Good afternoon, Adam. Never met an Adam I didn't like.
Here, here. Thank you, President Mayberry, Superintendent Ernst, members of the Board of Trustees. Again, for the record, my name is Adam Searcy. I am your Chief Operating Officer. There is no supplemental presentation for this item today because there's no new content to discuss. Just to recap, this same material was presented to the board 2 weeks ago at our June 9th meeting and was approved for consideration by the Capital Funding Protection Committee. Since that time, the Capital Funding Protection Committee met on June 11th, heard and reviewed these same materials, and also approved that content. Their motion was to approve the 10-year CIP and to forward the committee's recommendation to the Board of Trustees for final consideration and possible action. That is where we are today. There's a lot that has been said on this CIP. I won't try to add to that, but I just do feel like it's warranted to remind all of us how much we've learned and how blessed we are to have such a CIP that is more well-funded and which comes with significant responsibility. And just to reiterate that as we work on implementing this plan, how much care we will take to infuse all of those lessons learned and the diligence with which we will execute each and every dollar on each and every project. So that's the process that has taken us to where we are today. And with that, I'll turn it back to the board for consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Searcy. I'd like to go ahead and go for public comment first, open public comment.
I have no cards for
Okay,
this item.
all right, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Bring it back to the board. Are there any clarifying questions? Any further discussion? Should be a pretty straightforward item. Yes, Trustee Smith.
No, I'm pretty much ready to make a motion. if there's-
Outstanding, please.
All right. And prior to saying that, I just want to say thank you so much to staff and for all the voices involved with this. I think it reflects a very rigorous and healthy process, so thank you so much. With that, I move that the Board of Trustees approves the Capital Funding Protection Committee's recommendation from the June 11th, 2026 meeting for the revised 10-year capital improvement plan and directs staff to submit a 5-year capital improvement plan as required by state law based on the 10-year capital improvement plan.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve item 3.03 by Trustee Smith, second by Clerk Hall. Seeing no lights on, no further discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I heard that from Trustee Phoenix. All opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Outstanding, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving right along. Item 3.04 is presentation and discussion on the Administrative Facilities Master Plan Study, removing Worcester High School from consideration as part of the Administrative Facilities Master Plan and for staff to investigate and pursue the potential acquisition of existing commercial properties that would accommodate consolidation of central office staff. And once again, our presenter, Mr. Adam Searcy, our Chief Operating Officer. Trustee Smith.
Yes, thank you, President Mayberry. I have a disclosure.
Please, yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, President Mayberry. NRS 281A.420 requires me to disclose a conflict of interest. Agenda items 3.04 and 3.05 before this body affect my commitment in a private capacity to the interests of my husband, Sean Smith. Mr. Smith is an independent contractor affiliated with Colliers. Agenda item 3.04 includes discussion and possible action pertaining to the potential acquisition of commercial properties by the Washoe County School District. Prior to Mr. Smith becoming affiliated with Colliers, the superintendent approved representation of the Washoe County School District by Melissa Molyneux for commercial real estate needs. I did not participate in the solicitation or negotiation of the contract with Ms. Molyneux, and that contract did not come to the board for approval. Ms. Molyneux is an independent contractor affiliated with Colliers. Should the Washoe County School District acquire a property through its contract with Ms. Molyneux, I understand Ms. Molyneux will be entitled to a commission. Mr. Smith will receive no compensation or benefit from any commission paid to Ms. Molyneux. Mr. Smith and Ms. Molyneux have executed an agreement confirming that Mr. Smith will have no involvement in Ms. Molyneux's work for the Washoe County School District and will receive no compensation or benefit should Ms. Molyneux be entitled to a commission from the Washoe County School District. Although we do not have board counsel, I have provided a copy of the executed agreement signed by Mr. Smith and Ms. Molyneux to counsel of the Washoe County School District. Further, I understand that at our meeting today, the board will not take any action to approve the acquisition of a commercial property pursuant to the district's contract with Ms. Molyneux. As such, I do not believe that either I or my husband have a pecuniary interest in agenda item 3.04, and I conclude that the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my situation would not be materially affected by my relationship with Mr. Smith, and because that is not a clear case of a disqualifying conflict of interest, I am going to be participating in and voting on this matter. Thank you for your patience while I read that. You're welcome. I have one for 305 too.
Okay, very good. Thank you. No, thank you, Trustee Smith. And just as a reminder, I think this presentation is fairly lengthy, so just allow the presenter to go through the entire presentation, jot down any notes, and note the page numbers, and we'll ask any clarifying questions upon the conclusion. So, Mr. Searcy, it's your show.
Very well, thank you, sir. Again, Adam Searcy for the record, and I will appreciate your patience with this lengthy presentation. It's been a while since we were before the board talking publicly about this important work, so I do want to give some of this content a little bit more airtime. This particular presentation was posted, as you may recall, associated with the documents ahead of the May 12th board meeting. It was pulled from the agenda and not publicly discussed or presented, so looking forward to this afternoon's item. I'm trying to get this slide to advance. We'll see how it goes. Now it's catching up. Anyway, this is where we left off. This was the recommended motion from October that really sent staff towards analysis of a consolidated model for administrative facility needs on the current 9th Street property where we sit here today, as well as analyzing those facility needs on the Wooster property. And what we're going to discuss today, really here, sort of a table of contents. We're going to talk about the work that's been done since October. We're going to talk about the resources available with which to actually complete that type of an AFMP, Administrative Facilities Master Plan, the resources available to complete that work, and what a more detailed look at the solution might be. So again, not to bury the lead, obviously it was telegraphed in the agenda title, but what we are here to recommend is that the Wooster property be removed from future consideration for the purposes of an admin building, to acknowledge and recalibrate our approach with respect to the changing realities, namely the available resources towards the solutions and needs of the AFMP, and then talking about what options may be available to us. Again, just a refresher, I think it's very important frequently to uplift and consistently reestablish the need, the true need for this work and the benefit to our classrooms and our schools that a well-executed administrative facilities master plan could create. This, I think, is a complex and telling graphic trying to illustrate how we have been investing in our schools for a decade since WC1 has passed, that we have been executing and implementing our FMP for several years now, and that now we are studying the needs and potential solutions associated with our administrative facilities. There's competing interest and pressures on this, but ultimately recognizing that there is a significant need that directly affects our ability to serve our core mission. So starting, kind of from the beginning, of course, our district and our organization and our community has outgrown the facilities needed to serve our schools, and those facilities have outlived their useful life as well. We've seen this slide before. 9th Street, most of you are familiar with this property, but I do feel like it bears highlighting just the intensity of the facility deficit, we kind of call it in the condition. It's not just, the leaking roofs and the poorly functioning HVAC systems, but it's the lack of access to daylight and the lack of welcoming spaces that affect the human condition and affect the efficacy of the humans who serve our schools on a daily basis here. Those are images from the 9th Street property where we are today, where hundreds of professionals work on a daily basis in service to our schools and students. These are images from other administrative facilities from across the district, leased spaces, clearly poorly suited for the mission that these professionals are charged with serving. We saw this graphic excerpt last board meeting as well. Again, really highlighting the disconnected, disjointed nature of our department's organization and why it matters. I think that is really the punchline. I won't read all of those talking points to you, but I think each and every one of them are powerful and deeply true. That's the why behind what we're trying to address here through this study. The objectives, the what will we expect and hope for should we successfully execute this, are listed on this slide. Operational improvements, of course, more efficiency, more timely and effective decision-making. Financial stewardship, yes, this of course is going to entail a significant one-time investment, but it will also achieve efficiencies on the general fund side should we execute this properly. And then of course, arguably most importantly, organizational efficacy, our ability to get the right people in the right of adjacency to each other so that we can serve our schools more effectively, more efficiently, and that we can serve our community more effectively and more efficiently. These are the high-level objectives. And then last but not least, kind of on this point, we want to highlight that it's not just about finding the location, it's also about creating the spaces. We can fill, a warehouse with cubicles and suit the needs of 400 positions and whatnot. But really how we design these spaces for the collaboration and the different functions that these departments serve is going to be a big part of the ultimate plan, the AFMP. So somewhat agnostic to the site location, ultimately how we bring that facility to life will also significantly influence how successful this change may be. So again, back to October, we saw graphics that looked similar to this. The board ultimately agreed with the recommendation that a consolidated model would be the best fit for the district. But today we're going to dive into more depth regarding what these satellite facilities, where they may actually be a part of an optimal solution rather than one giant headquarters. Some of those current sites are listed on this slide: the Huffaker Maintenance Center, the Brown Center. These are former school buildings that are today and have for many years been utilized effectively as central admin office spaces. Also Edison, of course, off adjacent to AACT. That's where we were in October, just really at a high-level view, talking about a consolidated admin facility. And today, again, we're going to talk in more nuance about what does that mean. Obviously, sort of a Goldilocks slide here, under consolidation that perpetuates structural inefficiencies, over consolidation that results in unnecessary construction costs and perhaps even inefficiencies as well. Really trying to find what the sweet spot is relative to this organization and relative to the resources available to us. That's what that slide's really looking to convey. And then again, emphasizing sort of the must-haves, the criteria that are driving this conversation. Today, we spend considerable funds out of the general fund to lease office space over off of Riggins Court that many of you are familiar with, important services provided out of that location. That must end at the successful conclusion of an AFMP project. Of course, the 9th Street property, these buildings, again, have outlived their useful life, so want to kind of put that out up front. We're not looking at modernization of 9th Street as a part of this consideration. If we're going to do this, we're going to do this the right way. Department reunification. So just fundamentally, we've got a single department, you name it, they are in many instances dislocated from one another across a single department. That needs to end at the conclusion of any implementation here. And then today we're going to talk more about organizational clusters. You think about departments, you think about complementary departments. These are different departments, but they're siblings. Which departments want and need to be most proximal to each other? We're exploring that in more depth and figuring out who needs to live where and next to whom. And then, as I mentioned before, that design component, the real next step, bringing this to life in a way that's truly effective. That's kind of the background, folks. Speeding through this, this is, again, where we left off in October. Having explored all district-owned properties, including schools, and landing with the board on a deeper analysis associated with the 9th Street property and the Wooster property. Since that time, the team with Blue Cottage of Cannon Design and many others in the capital projects team, as well as others on the district leadership admin team, have helped facilitate this work, including in-person interviews, electronic surveys, and other engagement methods across many, many individuals who serve our district from the central office, including many of our Board of Trustees who we've interacted with as stakeholders in a very unique way in this, on this project. Both on 9th Street and also at Wooster, we're going to show in a little bit more depth how the team engaged with students, staff, and community members associated with the Wooster community. Many of these questions started with some of these fundamental must-haves. You know, could we execute the construction of a new admin building on this current 9th Street property while still maintaining the important work that goes on every day on this property? Similarly, could we build a new admin facility on the Wooster campus while maintaining active school operations on that campus? The answers to those questions were a qualified yes if. So of course, not of course, as you can imagine, on the 9th Street property, it is possible with some serious ifs. You know, there will be some very careful planning necessary, some interim mitigating actions. Parking, of course, would be significantly disrupted, but the answer was yes. If we address this carefully and thoughtfully, we could build a new admin facility on this property while effectively maintaining operations on this campus. Somewhat similarly, we asked those same questions of students you can see in these images and staff we engaged with directly on their campus. What would it look like to build a new administrative facility on the Wooster campus in tandem with major improvements to the Wooster High School campus? What about traffic? What about parking? Not only during construction, but once both facilities are up to full operational status, how would those two different functions coexist on a similar property? We worked through those questions and determined some manner of path forward on both properties. We then took a step back and looked at it from a little bit more quantitative analytical view. This is still a study and a plan, so please appreciate the degree of detail, but also recognize that behind these slides, there was rigorous quantitative analysis put towards really these four major categories. So looking at just these two properties with respect to their ability to support the objectives and the needs of this AFMP, looking at these two properties from the standpoint of time to benefits. Ultimately, time, of course, equates to money, and to the path towards a completed admin facility at Wooster was objectively recognized as being lengthier for the needs for stakeholder engagement. Fundamentally, the permitting process, the construction process would largely be similar from a chronology standpoint, but the path from site identification to groundbreaking, if you will, would need to be longer and therefore more complex at the Wooster campus. So just kind of looking at it from an analog standpoint on this category, that was our conclusion. Again, next, looking at both properties from the standpoint of operational efficiency. Once these projects are completed, which one might provide a higher degree of operational efficiency, not during construction, but during an operation? So back to the, could we operate a high school and an admin facility on the same campus? Ultimately, that led to lower marks for the Wooster property on this criteria. The existing congestion associated with the high school, associated with the interstate off-ramp, associated with the major arterial of Plum Lane that would be significantly worsened by the addition of several hundred full-time professionals on that same campus. You know, while parking and access sometimes can be a challenge on the 425 East 9th Street property, in comparison to a Wooster solution, the 9th Street property was judged to be superior from an ultimate operations and efficiency standpoint. Next goal that we analyzed in some detail was just the disruption to students, staff, and the community. I think with most of the projects that we do, we should always ask ourselves these types of questions. How does it affect the students, right? And while there is absolutely a path to yes associated with the Wooster property, in direct comparison to the 9th Street property with respect to its disruption potential to students, staff, and the community, the 9th Street property was judged to be superior in terms of this goal relative to Wooster. And then last but not least, really just looking at, you know, the bottom line, right? Fiscal responsibility and stewardship. And similar to what I mentioned previously, at a high level, a range of costs before ever putting pen to paper, fundamentally the same construction costs would be necessary at either location within a range of detail. And we're going to go into much more detail on this aspect of these projects in future slides, but when we're looking to compare and contrast one site from another, not a significant differentiator on this cost metric. So on balance across these four criteria, we've judged the 9th Street property to be more favorable than the Wooster property for the purposes of the AFMP across 3 of these 4 categories. That, coupled with the feedback that we received from the community through a variety of forums, not the least of which the composition of the CIP, has brought us to this recommendation. This, of course, isn't the final recommendation slide, but to say it again, and say it again, we are today suggesting focusing the study on, removing Wooster High School from future consideration for the purposes of admin facility. We want, through this slide, to re-emphasize our ongoing commitment to the Wooster High School campus and the investments on that campus through the FMP, the CIP, and for the purposes of educational facilities. Removing it, however, as you can see grayed out on this slide, from consideration for the AFMP, focusing or pardon me, I'll just read the slide. Suggesting this focused study on the potential acquisition of the alternative sites, and should none be available, returning to focus on the 9th Street property. Let's talk a little bit more about what that means. So that's kind of the summary of the analysis and investigation that we've done over the last 6 months or so that has informed where we think we are going pending action today. I mentioned the CIP a couple of times. I think we're all very familiar. You know, this, I don't know if you guys liked my little, you know, rainbow color. Somebody called it Candyland or something. But, you know, it gets the point across. It's been an evolution for the CIP that has been playing out hand in hand with this AFMP. It's an important part of our CIP, and we need to work dynamically within it. This is just to reiterate what that process has looked like. You can see the Worcester bar grayed out on this same estimated range of project costs slide, but you'll also now see the approximate proposed CIP budget allocation associated with this admin facility needs. So you can see from a high level that there's a delta there, and that we need to work to find a solution that will fit within the resources available to us. And so that's exactly what this study is designed to do, to really look at our needs, look at our available resources, identify our options, and ask challenging questions. Again, starting with the must-haves. Absolutely, we must provide improved working environments for our staff in service to our schools. Of course, that must happen, as well as exiting those leased properties, which absolutely should occur. So in order to achieve those results, what if instead of a single consolidated headquarters with satellites, we considered up to 2 appropriately sized administrative facilities with satellites? What if instead of building exclusively new buildings, we explored the purchase of existing buildings with major renovations to suit our needs? These were just some of the concepts that were initially proposed to help us evolve with our CIP. So the next few slides get a little bit more dense. We talked before with some hand puppets about departments and organizational clusters. This is getting into a little bit more detail as far as what that means. So the condition on the left-hand side represents our existing state with those little colored rectangle blocks representing essentially departments that are appropriately sized relative to their population, or, you know, total number of staff, shaded with respect to their sort of departmental affinities, their organizational clusters. And you can see different colors spread out across different groupings or different, that's where I'm talking about departmental dislocation, where I've got groups within the same department occupying different buildings. You're all familiar with those specific buildings. And that's, again, the existing state. This is an expanded level of detail back to that Goldilocks bar graph. We've got over consolidation, we've got under consolidation. We want to find what's just right for us. So over consolidation illustrated on this graphic, of course, every single person in the central admin facilities in the same building, not necessary, not perhaps ideal for a variety of reasons. So let's look at what we're really working with and figure out ways to reorganize our departments and our organizational clusters in the ways that improve outcomes for the district and for our schools, and then work on how to bring those solutions to life in terms of actual facilities. The next slide goes into a little bit more granularity with this concept. So on a scenario, the right-hand side, a recommended consolidation where we retain Edison, retain the Brown Center perhaps, but either purchase or construct a single 150,000 or so square foot building that would house all of those departments and others, or one on the left-hand side that uses up to 5 sites with 2 sort of complementary headquarters, but occupied or populated with these organizational clusters. You can see all of those different departments that are very much interacting with each other on a very complementary basis in the academics organizational cluster, as well as the many other departments, strategic leadership, school police, operations, business, grants, all of those departments, as well as the Board of Trustees, would conceivably be co-located in a secondary building. So these are the concepts that we began exploring, both organizationally, as I've been describing, but also more physically and literally, as illustrated on these slides. So, okay, these are neat ideas, but again, we're trying to evolve with our CIP, which constrains our available resources. This is a nice idea, but it only does so much good if I can't necessarily afford it. And in order to achieve that, we began exploring existing commercial real estate properties across the region. Now, just for a baseline scenario, the column on the left represents kind of the one headquarters new construction scenario. And these, again, they're high-level numbers, but they have absolutely been validated by local professionals, both in the commercial real estate market, in the public works construction market, both architecturally and general contractor perspective. So these are current and reasonable local ranges for the square footage and building types that we're talking about here. And you can see, while there are ranges and contingencies associated with this, the construction of a 150,000 square foot new building is significantly beyond the $100 million resource level that's been approved in the CIP. So then moving to the right, we're looking at, and I think about this somewhat in terms of what you guys are familiar seeing on our zoning presentations. Well, we'll look at one option and show the combination option this way, and then still another permutation of that option. So we've got two buildings in the mixed approach. One is a new build, and one is the acquisition of a vacant commercial building. And you can see what the estimated cost for that solution might be. That one highlighted as being within the range of our proposed CIP resources, so an idea worth pursuing. This middle approach on this slide is representative of a new building construction located on the current 9th Street property. So we would still own and retain this property, build on the existing property while this campus is in active use, while searching for acquiring a nearby, reasonably nearby vacant commercial building. There would be design and renovation necessary almost certainly for that facility as well, and then bringing both facilities to life as close as possible to the same time for the purposes of this entire study. That's what that center column represents, and we believe a viable path forward for the goals of our AFMP within the available resources. Just to round this out, you can see on the far right-hand side, purchasing and renovation of two existing commercial properties. That's a tall order, folks. One available commercial property of suitable location and size and type is going to be hard enough to come by, but two is going to be a real challenge. But we put it on this slide for sort of completeness illustration purposes. The other element that introduces is the final row in the table, where we are factoring in the potential sale proceeds of this 9th Street property into the total project costs. Whereas in that scenario, if we're purchasing two off-site properties, we would relinquish or vacate this property and seek to likely liquidate it, offsetting the costs associated with this project considerably. So one other slide on this of this type. The first column on the left is a deviation. We left it on there for completeness standpoint, but it does involve what we're calling a renovation of the 9th Street property. I said before that was a non-starter, so I'll let you guys do what you want with that one. The mixed approach in the center involves building a new 70,000 square foot building off-site, as well as acquiring a vacant commercial property offsite. That too would result in us vacating this property, and that's why you see the potential sale proceeds of this property being included in the total project balance, representing that a solution that looks like that could reasonably fit within our available resources of the CIP and achieve the objectives of the organizational improvement purported by the AFMP. And again, finally, I believe the column on the right on this slide is identical to the one on the last slide. It's really that center slide that I wanted to draw your attention to, as again, opening up this 9th Street property for potential repurposing. So that's kind of the medium level detailed summary of our analysis. Again, emphasizing our suggestion to reopen consideration for a somewhat time limited period. We've suggested 6 months. That is flexible, of course, but certainly we can't pursue this indefinitely, or do not recommend pursuing this indefinitely, especially when we do have a vetted property solution in hand in the form of our current 9th Street property. But in order to constrain that search appropriately, we wanted to highlight these major criteria. Of course, any available commercial properties must be able to support a size necessary to bring these organizational clusters together into the same building. We estimate that to be approximately 70,000 gross square feet of office space in order to do that. So we're not looking at 20,000 square foot office buildings. That's just not what we need. We need them to be reasonably expeditiously acquired. These are big transactions, in some instances with existing tenants perhaps. So reasonably expeditious is spoken of in the term of years, but not excessive numbers of years. So appreciating there's a path to occupancy that isn't a decade away, but it's also not tomorrow. Centrally located, of course, it goes without saying. We're, of course, a regional organization serving over 100 schools in our entire county. Central is relative to a certain degree. There's matters of access, but anytime we're talking about real estate matters, we need to talk about location. And then, of course, cost competitive. We are intentionally framing our analysis within the available resources. Nothing worse than going on a pipe dream of planning exercise only to find out that you've dreamt up something twice that you can actually achieve or afford. So this needs to be grounded in reality. We've done preliminary research across construction and real estate fronts, and we believe that there is a path to success here. We just wanted to provide this update and, of course, then ultimately find that precise path. Couple more slides, folks. This is just to also continue to ground our expectations in the chronology of reality, that while this is important work and we're all working very briskly towards its achievement, this will take a number of years to identify, acquire, and even if we purchased an existing commercial property, there would need to be thoughtful design and multi-million-dollar renovation of that facility, almost certainly, to make it optimal for the needs of this organization. Again, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it well. But that's approximately what the timeline might look like. Next steps towards realizing this FMP, we are, of course, going to bring back to this board the completed study. And that's sort of a preview likely for our next meeting in July, where our consultant Blue Cottage will compile all of their investigation and with a robust appendix and lay out a path forward that again is some degree indifferent to the site selection. Whether we build a new building on one location, buy an existing building on a different location, or some combination that we haven't even quite dreamt up yet, the master plan will serve as the foundation for the programming, the design, the change management, the organizational change management that must be part and parcel of the implementation. It's not as simple as just designing a new building and moving into it, but that's what that roadmap will look like and what the the AFMP will leave us with. In the meantime, we are asking for direction from the board to begin investigating these options. This is the layman's term summary of the recommended motion. Again, I want to emphasize removing Wooster from consideration as a part of the AFMP, exploring existing commercial properties for consideration, emphasizing that we absolutely will return to the board with updates or any necessary action associated with a purchase action. And if no suitable locations or properties are identified, to return to the board to proceed or to consider proceeding with the current 425 East 9th Street property. This, however, is the full-throated superintendent's recommendation, and that concludes my remarks. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. How large is this building?
I want to say the combined square footage is in the vicinity of 75,000 square feet total.
Okay, close enough. Okay, thank you. Colleagues, any clarifying questions before we go to public comment? Then we'll begin to deliberate and have further discussion. Okay, seeing none, let's just do that. Let's go to public comment.
Gina Paroli.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Superintendent Ernst, President Mayberry, and members of the Board of Trustees. My name is Gina Paroli, and I serve as the Vice President of Washoe Professional Technical Association, WPTA. I'm speaking today in support of the proposed action under the Administrative Facilities Master Plan to direct staff to investigate the acquisition of existing commercial properties that can accommodate the consolidation of district administrative services. We appreciate the thoughtful approach being proposed. Investigating existing commercial properties before committing to new construction demonstrates fiscal responsibility and provides the district with an opportunity to fully evaluate potential cost-effective solutions. At the same time, we believe it is important to keep all viable options on the table. While staff explore existing commercial properties that may meet the district's needs, we encourage the continued evaluation of potential new construction opportunities so that the board ultimately has the most complete information available when making this important long-term decision. Earlier this year, WPTA President Joseph Medula spoke about the need to address the conditions of our current administrative facilities. Those concerns remain today. Many employees continue to work in aging buildings with infrastructure, maintenance, security, and space challenges that impact your daily operations. As employees who work in and support the district's administrative operations every day, our WPTA members understand firsthand the challenges associated with our current facilities. WPTA supports a thoughtful, transparent, and fiscally responsible process that addresses the district's long-standing administrative facility needs while continuing to prioritize students and classrooms. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and your continued service to students and the employees of Washoe County School District.
Thank you, Ms. Paroli, and for all your work and your dedication to our school district as well. We appreciate it. Thank you.
The board received an email from you and our president, Brian Sandoval, and numerous community members.
Okay, thank you, JJ. Okay, any questions for Adam Searcy? Comments, suggestions? And then we can deliberate. It was very thorough, very thorough. Okay.
Ready to make a motion?
Yes. Trustee Woodley, please. Vice President Woodley.
I move that the Board of Trustees approves the removal of the Earl Wooster High School location from consideration as part of the Administrative Facilities Master Plan and directs the superintendent to investigate and pursue the potential acquisition of existing commercial properties that would accommodate consolidation of central office staff and services in the same building or buildings in close proximity, and to return to the Board of Trustees for possible action to purchase identified properties, or if after 6 months of investigation, no feasible existing commercial buildings are identified, to return to the Board of Trustees for possible actions to select the 425 East 9th Street property and adjoining parcels for a new consolidated administrative facility.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to approve item 3.04 as stated from Vice President Woodley, second by Trustee Westlake. Any further questions, discussion? Clerk Hall.
Well, Vice President Woodley just jumped right on that, and I just wanted to say that I think it is really incredibly important to bring together our staff members and our departments, and so I appreciate all of the diligent work that went into this. In my other hat that I wear, and also as a teacher, I often saw the disconnect between the departments and how that impacts us, and I've seen it as well as a trustee, and how that has created additional work for our staff to have to go between offices. So I really appreciate this, and I know that it took a lot to get to. I also just want to applaud again. I think that we've talked about this quite a bit, so I don't want to belabor the point, but the participation on the part of the Worcester community, especially the students, for having an open mind and saying, if this was to happen, what would it look like? And ultimately, advocating for this is not the best decision for our school campus. I think that's really important. But overall, I just really want to see wherever we get to, I want to make sure that we are pulling together the departments that really need to be working together. I think that is so important, especially in times of budget crisis. We've already eliminated some staff members, and so departments are already really thin. So I just want to say that I appreciate it, and then we can vote. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I just want to add too, as somebody who works for a public agency, and at one point we're in a public facility, at the county building, in fact, and we were on top of each other. And in 2000, we identified 2020 rather, we identified a warehouse in South Reno. And so the agency that I represent moved down to South Reno, occupied essentially a commercial building, made some investments, worked out beautifully. Very same concept here, but obviously on a much smaller level. I think our employees who support our teachers and our staff and this organization that work in this building and some of the other outlying buildings deserve the very best. So looking forward to the results of a consolidated admin building for sure. So thank you very much for that. Those are my comments. Any other comments, questions before we take a vote? We got a motion, we got a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right, I heard that. Thank you, Trustee Phoenix. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to say, we've been at this for a while. What I'd like to do, we have 3 items left. I would like to just recess for about 10 minutes, if we may, kind of stretch, and those in the audience can just bear with us, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes, and we've got about 90 minutes left, I think, of the meeting. So I hope, knock on wood. Thank you. We'll recess for 10 minutes. Okay, folks, we'll come back from recess at 4:12 PM, and we'll turn to item 3.05 with our presenters. Adam Searcy is back on deck, our Chief Operating Officer, and Kevin Pick, our Deputy Chief General Counsel. And item 3.05 is presentation, discussion, possible action to proceed with an external reuse evaluation for the Olmsted Elementary School. Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing us to take a short break.
Of course. Appreciate the break myself.
I'm so
Excuse me.
sorry, COO, President Mayberry.
Yeah, go ahead, Trustee Smith. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
thank you so much. Thank you, President Mayberry. NRS 281A.420 requires me to disclose a conflict of interest. Agenda items 3.04 and 3.05 before this body affect my commitment in a private capacity to the interests of my husband, Sean Smith. Mr. Smith is an independent contractor affiliated with Colliers. Agenda item 3.05 before the board includes discussion and possible action to dispose of the Old Stead Elementary School. My husband, Sean Smith, is an independent contractor affiliated with Colliers. There is a possibility that Mr. Smith could represent an ultimate buyer of the Old Stead Elementary School and could earn a commission based upon a sale of the Old Stead Elementary School. However, because that is speculative at this time, and because the board is not deciding today to sell the Old Stead Elementary to any particular buyer, I do not believe that either I or my husband have a pecuniary interest in agenda item 3.05, and I could conclude that with the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my situation would not be materially affected by my relationship with Mr. Smith, and because this is not a clear case of a disqualifying conflict of interest, I am going to be participating in and voting on this matter. Thank you, and then I ask my disclosures be reflected in the recording. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Smith. Thank you.
Thank you, President Mayberry, Superintendent Ernst, members of the board. Adam Searcy again for the record. Here to discuss the potential application of the reuse and disposition framework for closed schools on our old, now, Stead Elementary School. Just for orientation, we're talking about the old Stead Elementary School up until just a few weeks ago, the Stead Elementary School that was approved for closure. Pardon me.
I apologize. I want to make sure Trustee Phoenix is still on the line, is he? Okay.
Yes, I am.
Okay, I apologize. Thank you, Mr. Searcy.
No problem.
No, of course. I believe Trustee Phoenix may be somewhere in the crowd in that image. We'll just use that as a segue.
He may be.
To the wonderful farewell event. The Stead Sunset is what that image was taken from. It was a lovely event and cathartic for that community as they close one chapter in the history of that school community and look to open a new one just a few blocks away, as illustrated in that other graphic, recognizing the parcel just nearby where we are constructing a new elementary school and will open that school in just a few weeks. Associated with that process, in addition to the board action to cause the school to close, the Zoning Advisory Committee reviewed any potential zoning or enrollment boundary changes and elected not to make any enrollment boundary adjustments ahead of the opening of the new school. So pretty linearly a replacement of the existing school, just rather than on the existing property, just on a different property down the street. So that's really where we are today. And it begs then the application of Board Policy 7086. We'll talk about how that has formed the basis for the repurposing framework. But really important, I think, that we early and often re-emphasize the five primary pillars of the board policy, which initially require analysis around internal district reuse. Of course, if we still need the property for some other purpose than a school, that should be considered first. And if not, then that the staff and community consider it for external reuse. That was the board policy approved earlier in 2025 that served as the foundation for the recently approved in late April repurposing framework. So in applying the repurposing framework to this now closed elementary school, it requires that staff, as I described, analyze the property for internal reuse, and if none is identified, move to request approval from the board to explore external reuse options. So in order to do that, the process also prescribes that an independent steering panel must be convened for a breadth of opinions and documentation of that initial analysis, and that any recommendation of that panel flow through the superintendent to the board. Really, that's the outline of the process that the framework prescribes, and that's the process that was applied in this instance. So here we are, a little bit more detailed discussion of how that process was applied. Initially, staff's analysis of existing program needs. I intentionally included several existing programs and space needs that are well known to the district and that were documented and considered as a part of this internal reuse evaluation. We'll talk in a moment about why those were not identified as warranting the reactivation of this property for the purposes of those programs. But I do want to not only highlight that we're well aware of their needs, but also highlight that they are going to continue to be on the list of programs that are in need, whether through the ultimate completion of the AFMP or future closed schools that we'll be putting through the same framework process in the very near future. We're also considering enrollment projection needs. That's somewhat of a presumption, but ultimately, again, with no enrollment boundary adjustments and a brand new larger school being constructed just down the street, while there is an area of enrollment growth in the North Valleys, there are multiple other solutions available for minor enrollment pressures that can arise that do not rise to the level of warranting us continuing to maintain and operate this as a school facility. And then finally, we issued basically an internal reuse survey or an opportunity for departmental leads across the district to submit programmatic requests for consideration. New or expanded programs as a part of this framework need to go through the annual budget process. So even though there may be a desire, it comes with an additional cost that may be meritorious. It just really also needs to come through the proper budget consideration channels. And any and all identified uses cataloged through that process will also be maintained for future consideration. Just really wanted to emphasize that, while there may be wants, they also need to come with associated funding, and so that's really how that process played out. Ultimately, a couple other highlights related to this property. As we talked in the previous item, location, of course, is an extremely influential variable when we're talking about real estate. So the geographic location presented by Stead Elementary School presents limited opportunity for many of our district-wide functions. The existing programs that are mentioned above are either accommodated adequately in other facilities or may be more well accommodated in other facilities, as I mentioned, future closed schools or our future admin facilities, rather than the Stead Elementary School. And then, really always weighing the totality of costs and liability associated with maintaining an aging school versus the benefit, and finding that on balance, there is not an adequate need or opportunity to retain this property and this use for internal purposes versus the cost and overhead associated with continuing to own and operate it. So while we have not gone further into the exploration of external reuse, I wanted to at least acknowledge some of the, higher level and more obvious aspects in favor of exploring an external reuse pathway. So as I mentioned at the onset, we're essentially replacing the school just down the street. So it's a fairly textbook surplus property situation. This property also is situated somewhat uniquely. Many of our schools are rather embedded within a residential neighborhood. This particular property sits less than 1,000 feet away from an interstate interchange and fronts along a 5-lane arterial roadway, making it particularly poorly suited for an elementary school property and perhaps particularly well suited for an alternative use through an external partnership. A few other points on that slide, as well as the operational considerations I kind of mentioned on the previous slide. It does cost a considerable amount to keep the lights on and basic maintenance at this property. And then as a part of, the ongoing maintenance, significant needs on this approximately 70-year-old building would remain our responsibility should we continue to own and operate it. That's really the process that we went through, kind of in summary. Again, a challenging location for a regional purpose, internal reuse scenario, not finding the critical mass of internal program needs that either are approved for expansion from a funding standpoint or could not be perhaps more well served through near-term facility solutions such as other future closed schools or an admin facility solution. Again, weighing the costs of retaining the property with the benefits, and then the need for internal program expansion to have to go through the budget process for approval. All of those points led to the recommendation here today that rather than pursuing an internal reuse pathway, our recommendation is to proceed with an external reuse evaluation. Now, I'm going to turn the next slide over to Mr. Pick, but before I do, I just kind of wanted to reorient us that, of course, this is just one step in a process. This next step doesn't actually prescribe a particular outcome. It is just further exploration, and we will be back to the board on multiple occasions as we take the next step down this external reuse path, should you approve our recommendation. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kevin Pick.
Thanks, Adam, and thanks, President Mayberry, Superintendent Ernst, Kevin Pick, Deputy Chief General Counsel for the record. This slide that's up here right now is just really a reminder about where we are within the repurposing process itself. We're at the juncture on the left, and so we're deciding at this point between internal, external reuse. And as Adam has discussed, internal reuse is not really recommended for this specific property based on its facility needs and financial feasibility. If the board ultimately agrees with this recommendation, then this would put us onto the external reuse pathway, which is at the top of the screen. That's where we would engage the community in multiple meetings, multiple forms of outreach. We'd assemble a more in-depth baseline property data portfolio that includes things like multiple appraisals of the property. We'd make a call for public proposals at that point for potential partners to come forward and to propose their external reuses for us so we can then consider them. And then we'd analyze those proposals as well as a public sale option. So at the end of the day, that recommendation, this would return to the board with a recommendation on whatever that external reuse option could look like. And that'll be up to the board to make a decision on that at the end of this external reuse pathway. Adam's going to discuss in the next slide here the anticipated timeline for this external reuse pathway, just so everyone's on the same page on what this will look like potentially going forward.
Thanks, Kevin. Many of these steps illustrated in this slide, and this is a graphic you've seen before, But this, again, is prescribed essentially in our reuse framework. And should the board approve the recommendation here today, we're prepared to initiate this community engagement and community input across a variety of fronts as soon as later this week. This will be multifaceted through website, electronic survey, ultimately community events, in-person listening sessions, and the like, which will be open to the community and noticed throughout the entire North Valley's vertical. Our target audience typically on these types, on most of the work that we do, are our school families and whatnot. In this instance, it's a little broader. The actual residents and community members of the Stead and North Valleys, Lemon Valley, Golden Valley community. So we really want to hit a slightly broader audience, ultimately eliciting input from the community in the form of informal calls for proposals. That non-binding calls for proposals will be issued as a part of this process so that we can not only hear from the community members electronically and in person, but actually receive outlines of business proposals for what scopes might be most desired from various partners and business folks in the community. Once we've received and evaluated these proposals, we'll then be back to the board with a summary recommendation that will be inclusive of what we heard from the community, what we received in terms of responses, and what these proposals are suggesting might be the preferred path forward. And you may recall from the approval of the reuse framework that pending board direction, then again, we may initiate a statutorily defined process to actually transact with an external party. All of this work will take months, and we are prepared to manage the property in the interim, and we are prepared to engage with the community in a way that allows this to be thoughtfully considered and appropriately informed, and creating a defensible position for the board to make a difficult decision, but one that we hope and believe will result in a win-win for our community. While, as I said, one chapter closes, another one is opened down the street. We'll look forward to the ribbon cutting of the new elementary school in just a few weeks, while simultaneously we're getting excited about what the next chapter in the life of this piece of property might hold for the Stead community. So that's the process, and with that, we would recommend the board approve us taking those next steps in alignment with the board policy, the reuse and disposition framework, pursuing external reuse exploration. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Pick? Mr. Searcy, Trustee Smith.
I do, thank you, President Mayberry. So this is exciting because this is our first school site that we're envisioning a new future for. My question is, with our community partners, I know this discussion is about this site, but are we taking a wider view with all of our community partners? Because it would be reasonable for many of our wonderful partners to say, oh, this is the first one, like we all have ideas. But really, if we inventoried all of the potential school sites, we of course have the Old Stead, we've got Corbett, we have Veterans, we have Smith Ridge, we have, well, you've got, of course, we're rebuilding Trainer as an elementary school, and that leaves Duncan. We have Kate Smith. The list goes on and on and on. What my question is rather than everybody rushing to this first one, is there a mechanism in place where wonderful community partners like Boys and Girls Club, Community Health Alliance, Children's Cabinet with Childcare, who knows, they can see the universe of sites, and those are just school sites. We also have unused real estate parcels all around the county where they could actually get a view of, we'll use the Boys and Girls Club, for example. They can have an understanding of all the potential sites coming so that whatever proposals they put in, rather than anybody rushing to want something at one site, they know that there could be better sites for what they're really interested in. So that's my question is, how does this fit into the larger universe of all of our available real estate so that our community partners might get an idea of which ones they may eventually want to make a proposal for, rather than everybody rushing to this one because it's the first?
Yeah, it's a brave new world. This is some uncharted territory, and, I think we're trying to judiciously take this one step at a time. It is exciting for all the right reasons. These are also deep and uncharted rabbit holes. I've had these conversations with many of our public and private community leaders, imagining what is possible, planting the seeds and awareness that you describe, and ultimately asking for their help. Ultimately, I feel this is a somewhat unique position. While we need a partnership with our community in all the work that we do, this one is maybe more so than typical, or certainly different than normal, in that we deeply need to find a future use for these properties that is of benefit to our community, and we need some partners in order to do that effectively. So I think the answer to your question begins in a lot of different ways, but most succinctly with our website. So we will consistently drive all conversations about the specific aspects of what we just described relative to STED to a single website that will also include all of the currently available public information relative to the school sites that the Board of Trustees has already identified for closure. So we're not getting ahead of ourselves and talking about Duncan. Like, I know what you're saying. There's plans that have spoken about that, but until the Board of Trustees takes that vote, we've got 6 elementary schools, counting STED, over the next 3 years that have been publicly approved for closure, and that in due time we will apply this process to. You know how it is. There's never enough public communication and awareness of this that we can do. So I'm optimistic that through the amplification of, or the shining of the spotlight on this opportunity, driving that awareness and traffic to that singular website, they will see, oh, there is Veterans, there is Corbett, there is Dodson, there is Kate Smith. I'm going to track this process because I want to participate in it and familiarize myself with it, but really I'm learning in anticipation of pursuing the property that most well suits my interests. I'm absolutely tracking what you're saying, and we're trying to balance the portfolio approach with sort of a one step at a time approach, and that's where we're at.
Thank you, that's fantastic. Will that website also include all of our unused parcels that we have around the county that could also be of use to other partners? So undeveloped land that we have in all the little nooks and crannies.
Yeah, so at this time, the answer to your question is no. Many of those parcels are very intentionally, moderately intentionally, or otherwise identified for future use. All of those properties are readily searchable on public websites, and so that's separate from the closed school reuse and disposition framework, and likely to remain separate.
All right, thank you. One more question, Mr. President. This is just from me, but whether for this option or any in the future, I will need a little bit of help understanding any recommendation about us ultimately becoming a landlord, because that is a space I feel really uncertain about. So I'm just kind of signaling that even with the best of partners, it just is one of those. I'm not saying that that's not great. I will just need some help understanding what that looks like as compared to other cleaner separations of a property. I mean, we had a nonprofit, a very, really well-known nonprofit, just announced their closure that, we were partners with. And so my mind thinks to, what if that were to happen and then we are a landlord, and I just want you to know that that's a headspace that I think will be something that we'll have to talk about if we ever cross that bridge and the senior team responsible for bringing a recommendation ever does make one of those recommendations. I just want to signal to you that that's one of those things that I really think I'll just need to have explained, like how that would structurally exist for us. But thank you.
In response to that, I'd just like to add that there is a process under Chapter 393 for leasing properties to private entities. Chapter 277 will be a lease to another governmental entity, so it's a little bit different, but it is a very complicated process under 393, and I think we would absolutely need to have that conversation to help the public and everyone get on the same page with what the process is.
Excellent, thank you. Any other clarifying questions before we go to public comment? Okay. JJ, we'll go ahead and open for public comment, and as a reminder, comments are limited to 3 minutes and must pertain to the agenda item. If you have comments not on the topic, they can be provided during general public comment period. JJ?
Nathan Newlot.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, thank you. Board of Trustees, Nathan Elliott, Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Reno, for the record. Proud parent of Washoe County students. So just here today to kind of applaud the policy and show and see that it's working, that it's gone through those first steps of internal use and now looking at the possibility of external use. And also want to thank this board and the staff for the partnerships that we share in other areas for the joint use agreements in our outdoor sports programs and our after-school and out-of-school time programs too. So I think those are good examples of where there's a strong partnership already. And we just want to encourage the exploration of how this, while, you know, I think about my first car being a 1984 Honda Accord, it was new to me. You know, so it might have been old and had a lot of use, but it still had a lot of miles on it. And that's kind of how I look at this building. This building allows North Valleys to step into the future a lot faster than it would have when it comes to service if there's a way to connect the community to that. So I think Trustee Smith's point about finding partners that are stable is just as important as anything else you could consider, because this turning over after a year and something failing out, we had some issues ourselves with foundation partners and things like that. So just want to encourage it. The exploration, City of Reno is excited to see this. We've been watching it for 18 months as the policy has come forward and understanding these schools this is not the only one that's going to happen. So, but we want to be a part of the conversation and support any partners that would be a part of this and reimagining what is an amazing building with some great bones and a place that has a deficit of services. So with that, thank you.
Thank you for coming out. My first car was a 1984 Chevrolet Chevette. It was a lemon, yeah. Sorry.
Sam Gettle.
Mr. Gettle, good afternoon.
Hi, my name is Sam Gettle. I'm going to use his word, cement partner. You're my cement partner. I own all the property across the street from the Veterans Elementary School. So we've had a nice relationship for 17 years. So I'm nervous about going forward because it's going to close next year. So what I'm asking for is that there's a robust program to maintain it, and why it's been, and so because the lawns are beautifully kept, but we're beginning to get more problems of people on the campus late at night because they've encouraged dog use. So there are other things too, in soccer fields. So reason why I'm here was what happened on Saturday, and that is why I was watering in the gardens. There was a gentleman on the front porch of Veterans who was had large drones, and he was using it as a launch pad, and they got within 20 feet of our houses, and when I confronted him, he got very violent. And so we didn't take pictures or anything like that. And the second thing has been about 7 months ago, we had somebody that's been around on Locust Street and on the campus, and he concussed one of my employees by putting a rock in a sling and a sock. And so this was late at night on private property. So the problems exist. So we're dependent on you as the cement partner to maintain this building while this is going on. This because, you know, you're in real estate, I can tell, or your husband, or somebody, yes. So I was that many years ago. So it's a long process, and so it makes all of us good neighbors if I can count on you, because I have 10 houses, and so we're very on Camden Alley, which is the front door to the school. So if I could be assured of that, it would be very nice in the future, and let the future take its course. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just for clarity, the item is on the Stead School, not veterans, but, and we don't engage during public comment, but we'll make sure that the staff connects with you.
Because what I said, that's why I'm adjacent to that, but could also go for that, but even though it's more commercial.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Because veterans is embedded in the neighborhood.
The board received emails from Eaton Dunkelberger with the Community Foundation of Northern Nevada and Mike Worm of the Boys and Girls Club of Truckee Meadows on this item.
Okay, thank you. Clerk Hall.
Could we go back to the timeline? This feels really ambitious. And I guess it's not really a question, I think just conversationally, I'm just a little concerned, and I just want to make sure that I guess my overall question is, are we okay with it potentially taking longer than what this timeline is? This timeline feels fairly ambitious. So like taking care of the school for potentially longer if, say, all the like maybe some of the proposals come in and we just don't feel like they're the right thing. Are we okay with moving on, and does our framework allow for that, or do you need to come back to us?
So first and foremost, we are prepared to maintain and secure the property appropriately, indefinitely. Certainly, time is of the essence.
Sure.
I'll reserve comment about the iterative nature of the process, but this is an important decision and will need to take as long as it needs to take.
Okay.
We're prepared to act on it, and we're prepared to maintain the property in the meantime.
Okay, great.
Trustee Westlake.
Thank you, President Mayberry. I'm really happy that we're leaning more to external use. Having been a landlord, well, I'm still a landlord, but we've scaled back because it is a lot of work. People stop paying rent. They break leases, they break contracts. You're responsible. Well, you've got to take care of the property. Regardless if it's being leased out to someone else, you're still responsible for that property and the maintenance. So it's not like, oh, okay, we're renting it out now, it's leased. We're still going to be responsible. And then to get the right tenant in there, we might have to do TIs, tenant improvements to get the right renter in there. And then when they leave, then someone else comes along and those improvements you did isn't going to fit that renter. So you're back into another round of TI. And it's just, it's an investment. It is. I mean, I wish we could keep all of our properties as an investment, but it is extremely costly. It is a lot of hours to keep an eye on that property. And just as that gentleman had just said, things go on when it's your property that you can't always have eyes and a presence on that property. So I'm really excited. I hope we don't change gears and decide to take this on ourselves, because I think we've got to keep in the education business, and stepping into that other space is a lot of work. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Westlake. Any other comments? Okay. Yes,
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, go for it.
I move that the Board of Trustees approves the recommendation to proceed with the external reuse evaluation process for Old Stead Elementary School in accordance with Board Policy 7086, the reuse and disposition, framework for closed schools and applicable Nevada revised statutes.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to approve item 3.05 by Vice President Woodley, second by Trustee Dr. Nicolette. Any more? Seeing no further comments, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 3.06 is a presentation, discussion, and possible action to approve the 2025-26 D Major Projects Program for fiscal year 2027 capital renewal. Ms. Zimmerman is at the table, our Chief Facilities Management Officer. I think Trustee Hall, Clerk Hall, wants to make a disclaimer as well. Go ahead.
It is the meeting of disclosures. So I just wanted to say for the record that I would like to disclose that I was recently a teacher at Sparks Middle School for several years of my teaching career. However, I'm no longer a teacher or an employee in the Washoe County School District. While this item relates to the school, my current relationship with the school, students, and community is no greater than that of any other similarly situated individuals, and I am able to consider this item fairly and impartially, and my past experience at this school or any other school will not influence my judgment or decision-making on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Zimmerman.
Thank you, President Mayberry, trustees, Superintendent Ernst. Happy to be here today to bring forward the approval and recommendation from the June 11th Capital Funding Protection Committee for our 2025-2026 D Major Projects Program. I want to brag a little bit on the team. We do a lot with very few staff, and so we bid and designed over 100 projects for that dollar amount. They may range from large projects like Vaughn to Stead to a door lock project. And all of those little projects take a lot of time, but our staff does a tremendous job in ensuring that our schools are well taken care of in this capital renewal program and major projects program. Our first item in this, there's two items within this D major project, is the design phase funding for Sparks Middle School reconstruction project. As you guys are aware, it was approved in the FMP project as a reconstruction. So that also precipitates the construction of an elementary school on the Trainer campus. And that was approved today in that year one for Sparks Middle School design phase funding in the CIP. So we're gonna get off and running with some Sparks Middle School design here. This gives you on the left, the site shows you how the breadth of where we're going to be talking about combining schools. We'll get to that in the fall. And then on the right is our potential construction location. We've been having initial conversations even before this with the city of Sparks, and there are parks over there. They're well aware. We're going to start working through that. That's part of what we need these funds to do, is to work through those processes with them. We have a really good relationship with them, so I can't wait to engage further with them in this process. We also want to look a little bit at the enrollment, some of the projections for those two schools, and be mindful of how we construct that project, as well as what comes down in 10 years too, because that facility modernization doesn't stop, that plan doesn't stop with Sparks Middle School. It continues on, so we need to be very thoughtful in that process. So this is pre-design funding that we're asking for, or conceptual is what we call it in the design world. And so we really just need a little bit to start getting our engines going and our architect going on this process. We intend for this to be a prototype like O'Brien and Vaughn. So with that, we'll be using that similar phase construction as we did with Vaughn, building and then demoing and putting fields back in that. Because we have the experience of doing this a couple times, we're going to hard bid this. That'll give us more competition with our contractors. So we've learned our lessons is the idea, and that we can go ahead and do that with a hard bid with this. So our draft schedule is fall of 2026. We'll come back and ask for the remaining, because we'll know more, right? Remaining design phase funding for you. We'll start anticipation for construction phase funding in the spring. And then in the summer of 2027, we anticipate starting construction over there. And then the anticipated opening is fall of 2029, so giddy up. The next part of this is our FY 2027 capital renewal plan. You guys have seen this a couple times. You know, it's a yearly thing for us. It is a systematic approach to looking at all of our assets and prioritizing them in the categories we have. We look at our asset management system, we speak with our shop supervisors as well as the SFCs, and we take those meetings with Safe and Healthy Schools and we incorporate those into that safety and security items in there. So this is an overview of these items here, and carpentry is one of our biggest with roof and roof repairs, and that's to keep our buildings dry, which is super important. Electronics has a lot of items in there, but we really highlight and prioritize fire alarms and intercoms because those are safety items within our schools. We have grounds in here with the replacement of playground equipment. Those are replacements of a single piece of equipment there at the school. It can be, we'll see how far those funds go with those pieces there, but those have outlived their useful life and we can't get parts for them. Our mechanical and electrical and plumbing, the biggest part is keeping our classrooms warm or cool depending on the season that we're in, so those are really important, and they're high dollar items. Within this, there's also paving. We have the pavement replacement and repair that's in there, and we do a pavement condition index system, but we also look at our pavement and look at all of our work orders that go into those systems to see how they're repairing them and what we have for cracks in that. So Piccolo is slated within this. We don't list each project, but it is slated in there to be designed this year and actually reconstructed next summer, pending good bids and all of that. But happy to report that for them. Safety and security, restroom safety upgrades. As you can see down below in that picture, we have our general use restrooms, and we're intending to work in the high schools. We've already started design and thinking of those this last year, and then we're gonna start constructing them this coming year. So they'll be similar to our general use restrooms in the high schools that don't currently have them. They may be a few tweaks just because of the construction that they have and things that we have to work around. But that's the idea, to give visibility and increase safety in those restrooms. And so we've taken that very seriously and implemented that into this capital renewal again this year. Also on there highlighted are the vape detection installation at middle school. We will be doing the same program we did at the high schools. We'll design them this year and implement them next summer so that they will be completed for that next school year. But the high schools will be completed for the beginning of this school year. All of those will be done. And so with that, that is a $50 million plan that we anticipate executing next year for design. Want to show you, we try to keep those big items, those large categories, and give them the same amount of dollars every year so that we take care of those items. So just kind of reflects that picture of our secure perimeters that we finished through safety this last year. And with that, we're asking with the superintendent's recommendation to approve a $51 million D major project program for us to start working on.
Questions on the board? No questions. Public comment.
I have no cards for this item.
We'll go ahead and close public comment. Bring it back to the board for any further discussion. Clarifying, yes, Trustee Smith, please.
Thank you, President Mayberry. I'm ready to make a motion.
Please.
Thank you. I move that the Board of Trustees approves the funding in the amount of $51 million for the 2025-2026 D Major Projects Program for projects throughout the Washoe County School District as recommended by the Capital Funding Protection Committee.
Second, and may I say, giddy up.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor by Trustee Smith to approve item 3.06 as stated, a second by Trustee Nicolette. See no lights on, no further discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Ms. Zimmerman. On final approach here, item 3.07 is presentation, discussion, possible action, adopt the Washoe County School District Bond Resolution 26-018. Our presenter is our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Mark Mathers. Well, no, it's not. I look up and it's not Mark.
No. Sorry to
Kyle.
disappoint.
Yes.
No, Kyle Rodriguez, Controller for the record.
My apologies.
No,
Yeah.
you're okay. So tonight, we're seeking adoption of the general obligation rollover bond resolution in the amount not to exceed $50 million. This bond proceeds will fund the FY27 capital renewal plan that was approved in the previous item. The district is confident in our ability to repay these debts as our projected revenue in FY27 is in excess of $102 million, with the estimated debt service payments being $86.9 million. And then lastly, we will issue this bond later in FY27, but with an adopted resolution, we can begin projects and record expenditures at the beginning of FY27. And with that, I will open it up for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Any questions for Mr. Rodriguez? Okay. We'll go ahead and call for public comment.
I have no cards for this
Okay.
item.
We'll close public comment, bring it back to the board for any further discussion. Seeing Clerk Hull light is on. Go ahead.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Go for it.
I move that the Board of Trustees adopts the Washoe County School District Board Resolution 26-018, a 2026C School Improvement Bond Resolution authorizing the district to issue general obligation bonds in the aggregate principal amount not to exceed $50 million.
I second.
Okay. And for the record, I do want to note that Trustee Woodley had to leave for a family commitment. So we have on the floor a motion to approve item 3.07 by Clerk Hall, a second by Trustee Westlake. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. All right, we're moving on to our reports. We do not have a student representative today. We'll move on to item 4.02, our board reports. And we will, I do have a note from Trustee or Vice President Woodley. He wanted me to just note that he attended a celebration of life for a leader of our community and proponent of education, Mr. Richard Dick Gamick. He served this community for over 40 years. He was also a board member of the Boys and Girls Club for decades. That's on behalf of Vice President Woodley. We'll go to Clerk Hall for her board report.
I am foregoing for something that's to come.
Okay, thank you.
That was very ominous, sorry.
It's okay. Trustee Westlake?
Thank you. I want to say that it was such a pleasure to go to the graduations this year. These kids are amazing. Our teachers, our principals, and it's always a pleasure to attend and witness the achievement and the successes. And it's also exhausting. I never thought just sitting there would be so exhausting, but it's just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I'm truly blessed to be able to go to those. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Trustee Westlake. Trustee Phoenix?
Yes, I will forego on my report there.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Phoenix. And coming around the corner here, we'll go to Trustee Smith.
Thank you. I'll wait a minute for JJ to get because I need all my seconds, JJ. So I was really happy to participate in the farewell event for Vaughn Middle School. That was a lot of fun. That's what I wrote on the wall. There were so many people there and just so many memories shared. So congratulations to the comms team and facilities for putting that on. The next picture is the WEA Gala. There were educators recognized at that event by Wooster, Pine, and Reno High. These are some pictures of the Pine Patriot educators that were honored at that event. That was really well done, and it's so great to always see our educators celebrating and recognizing each other. The next picture is congratulations to Libby Booth Elementary School. They were named a Unified Champion School by the Special Olympics of Nevada, which means that they have very specifically found ways to integrate students of all abilities into all aspects of the school, leadership, sports, and they were so proud. I believe that they were the first, if not one of the very first elementary schools in Northern Nevada to receive this designation, and the kids were super proud. This was led by their own student leadership group. And the last picture, super fun, is Reno High graduate Eric. He won a Honda Civic for perfect attendance. Bill Pierce, Courtesy Honda. You'll see a picture there with multiple of our trustees. Also Sandy Raffelli as well, and Principal Nakashima. So congratulations to Eric and all of our 80-plus seniors with perfect attendance. And then I will recognize that it is the month of June, and that means Pride Month. As we recognize Pride, I want to take a moment to reflect on one of the most important responsibilities we share as a school community, ensuring that every child feels welcomed, respected, and valued. Our schools serve students from many different backgrounds, cultures, and family structures. Some students have 2 moms, some have 2 dads, some live with a single parent, grandparents, foster families, or blended families. And what matters is that every child knows they belong and that their family is respected, no matter how it's structured or who their family members or they themselves love. Pride Month is an opportunity to affirm that belonging. When students feel accepted, they are better able to learn, participate, build friendships, and reach their full potential. And at its heart, this is a really simple idea. As adults, our priority should be raising young people who are capable of kindness, empathy, and love. Our job is not to police who they love, but to ensure that every child grows up knowing they are worthy of love and respect, and they can extend that same respect to others. So as trustees, educators, families, and community members, we all have a role to play in creating environments where every student knows you're welcome here, you are respected here, and you belong here. So happy Pride Month. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Nicolette.
Graduations, I want to personally, and I'm going to say, I'm sure for all of us, I want to thank Julie and Kara for taking such good care of us. In fact, I woke up Sunday morning going, I'm wondering if Julie and Kara are going to deliver food to me because they fed us so well. There was always something to eat and drink. It was wonderful. I also want to thank Thomas from the IT tech. He's the IT guru, and he's behind the scenes somewhere right this moment helping us. And I tried to see him at graduation, but it was hard to see him because I knew he was always there taking good care of us with the technology and making wonderful memories for everyone. And I want to thank you, Thomas, for always being there. And then I also want to thank Bell Photography for their endless picture taking. I mean, standing there and with the smile sign, and that's a lot of work, and I want to thank them, and they're fun people, and I really appreciate that. I want to do a special shout out to Christy, who's Dean of Students at Inskeep. She's part of the security team there, and she was official and wore her shirt, and she's just a delightful gal, and I can hardly wait to see her next year. And then I also want to thank the Lawler Events Center security team in general. It's really, there's a lot of people who are excited and anxious and maybe a little mischief here and there, and they're always on top of it and taking care of everyone inside the facility. And then, of course, I want to thank our administrators who sit on the stage with us, and we share those moments together and memories and hand out diplomas, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful team endeavor. And then last but not least, I want to thank our police department who are riding around on their bikes, who are going into the bowels of areas and making sure it's safe for everyone and being out front as thousands of people leave and keeping everyone safe and always doing it with kindness and fun. And I really want to thank them for that. And it's a wonderful, wonderful time. And I concur with my colleague Colleen that it's so heartfelt and it's such a gift and it's exhausting. And it's worth every minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Nicolette. I have 3 very brief points I wanted to acknowledge and graduate the class of 2026. It was a true pleasure to see so many graduates walk across the stage and shake their hand and give them their diploma, something that I'm certainly going to miss when I depart this board. And I appreciate Trustee Nicolette. The second bullet point I had was to acknowledge, and please, Superintendent Ernst, please express our deepest appreciation to Julie Kemp and Kara McKenzie, who coordinated just so much. It's such an amazing task that they undertake, and that needs to go, that doesn't go unnoticed. And as Trustee Smith pointed out, had an opportunity to participate in the Bill Pierce Courtesy Honda. Sandy Raffaelli is a dealer, the owner, has been doing it for 18 years. It was a wonderful event, the car giveaway for those that have perfect attendance. So I want to give her a shout out. And so with that, I wanted to then take a personal privilege for the remainder of this time and honor the education professional to my left who's departing today. And I have some written comments that I want to make, and I know we have a short video that, while JJ can get that video prepared, I'm going to read these a few things just to kind of highlight Joe's career, and then we'll have an opportunity to say some things from the heart. Claire Call, on behalf of the board, has a gift that she'll present to you as well. But I do want to say on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I want to express our sincere gratitude to Superintendent Ernst for his remarkable 32 years in education and his 30 years of dedicated service to Washoe County School District. This is tough. Throughout his career, Joe has served Washoe County School District in many capacities, including a teacher, a coach, an assistant principal, a principal, an area superintendent, a chief accountability officer, and most recently, a superintendent. In each of these roles, his deep appreciation for the important work taking place in our schools was evident and helped shape his approach to leadership. Joe has led with integrity, with thoughtfulness, and a steadfast commitment of doing what is best and what is right for our students, our staff, our families, and our community. His decisions have consistently reflected a focus on student success while also ensuring the long-term sustainability and strength of our district. During his tenure, he worked to strengthen the systems that support teaching and learning, always keeping the needs of students at the center of the conversation. And we are very grateful for the lasting impact Joe has made on Washoe County School District and for the professionalism, the dedication, and care that he has brought to every role that he has held throughout his career. And we will certainly miss his leadership and presence. We're excited for him as he begins his well-earned next chapter. We wish him a retirement filled with joy, relaxation, and many cherished memories with his family and loved ones.
Thank you.
So.
All right, well, we have something that you have to keep taking care of, because once a teacher, always a teacher, and there's nothing that you can do about that. But what we have in here is something for you to enjoy that next chapter, and do a little shopping at Shields so you can get your outdoor equipment updated, because we know you are an avid outdoor biker and hiker, and so we thought that was the best option for you to experience your next chapter. And I will take this moment to say that as a fellow educator, I think it is so apparent how much you love our students and how much you care about their well-being and the outcomes and the importance of their overall, the whole child. And that is something that I deeply care about. And I truly appreciate not only these last 2 years, but your 30 years of dedication in this district and even more as an educator. You always have a smile on your face, especially when students are around. So sign him up for Reading Week because he really likes to read. You know, we will still see you around. We know that we will, and we appreciate everything that you have given to this district and to all of the generations of kids that you have impacted. So thank you.
I will. I just want to say how much I appreciate your devotion to this district, and thank you for giving of yourself, because I know it does come at a cost, and you are appreciated, and it's been a wonderful 2 years. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Trustee Smith. JJ, Phoenix.
All right, Joe, where you at? Let me see. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that, man. Hey, Joe, thank you for putting up with me. All those questions that I had in our one-on-one, because that's where I get my answers from, right there in the one-on-one. So I appreciate all that. But I knew you were when the first time I saw you when you did interview in Worcester, and you answered those questions for me. I knew you were our guy. And sorry to see you have to leave, but you got the chapter ahead of you. You got new things to look forward to, and you're going to be missed. But I know you're going to be around, so we'll catch up to you one of these times soon. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Phoenix. Thank you, Trustee Smith, for reminding me we had him.
Thank you. Superintendent Ernst, I had my own little tribute, and I'm so glad we're doing it this way because I didn't know how I was going to make it all fit in 3 minutes. These were 3 memories of you that really stick out in me. I don't know, maybe you will remember or know what that very first picture in the upper left is. That was immediately following our unanimous vote to extend you the opportunity to be our superintendent, which was such a special and exciting moment for our community and for our board. And when you walked into this room, the camera was off, so this was in the off time in the video. What I really wanted to show was when we all stood up and gave you a standing ovation. But this is the moment when you addressed the board after the vote, and it was just a really special time. The way that you spoke to us, the way that you have led since then, truly incredible. And it was a very special moment watching you here. Now, the big picture over on the right is when you were addressing the large assembled gathering of leaders and educators at the U.S. Department of Education in Washington, D.C., watching you present the work and the progress of WCSD, the way that we had worked with our labor associations, what we had been able to accomplish in just a single year's time. Just so everybody knows, Superintendent Ernst and I went last in a very full day of programming, along with Alex Marks from the Nevada School Educators Association. And even though we were in that last slot, we had the entire room listening to Superintendent Ernst. We got a wild amount of applause afterwards, and you just really hit it out of the park. And it was truly an exciting moment. And that picture is what I think of when I think of you. It was a really special moment to see you presenting on that federal stage. And then the last picture going around clockwise in the lower left-hand corner was us at the rodeo last year, which was so fun. And you didn't even make fun of me once for wearing a cowboy hat, even though I think we all know that's probably not part of my normal wardrobe rotation. And it was just really wonderful getting to know you, getting to know your family, and sharing these 2 years with you. So thank you so much for all that you have done. You've been a wonderful model for our kids and for our leaders, and I know that you are leading us or leaving us in wonderful hands with Ms. McMaster, incoming Superintendent Tiffany McMaster. Thank you.
I'm going to keep it incredibly personal. A book that you shared with me, Boys in the Boat. I still refer to that, and I look at the quotes that the author inserted. And it was a very fulfilling book. If you haven't read it, Boys in the Boat, please do. It's a remarkable story of teamwork and frustration and people who need to take turns being leader and yet at the same time all leading. And so to that, Boys in the Boat, why did the vegetable boat sink? Well, he thinks at the end of every one of our one-to-one meetings that we do before the board meetings, I share a Grandma Nana Die joke. This one in particular, why did the vegetable boat sink? He's pretty good at coming up with something.
Because it was beat. I don't even know.
See, you are good at this. But no, that's the wrong answer. It had too many leaks.
Oh, this is for the board, yes. Joe, you know how much you have meant to me. You have been a mentor, you have been a friend, and you have really lifted me up in this position, and you have encouraged me and supported me, and I really appreciate your confidence in me. You walked me down on the Women of Achievement Award, and I couldn't ask for a better person to do that. And you and I have already talked about, and I already broke down once on this, so I'm not going to do this again, but thank you for everything, and you will be missed.
Well, I've said enough. I'll just say a few quick things. And Joe, when I came on this board about 5 years ago, and you were in the audience, and from time to time you would have to come up and present as the Chief Accountability Officer. I always just admired how you spoke. You were level-headed, you were clear, you were succinct, and I always thought, that man is superintendent material, and I knew that you would be in a superintendent one day, and I'm just so thrilled that I had a part of that serving on this board while you were superintendent. And you're one of the most humble leaders I know. You always give credit to your staff. I think you never get enough credit to yourself, and just know that that doesn't go unnoticed, that we'll miss you. I'm proud to call you a friend, and thank you for all you've done. And with that, item 4.03 is the superintendent's report. So that's a good segue to you.
All right, I'll remember the leaks for future.
That's with 2 E's.
Yeah. Well, first, thank you very much for the kind words. Those are a bit overwhelming to hear. So thank you for the very nice regards. You know, I look back, I was looking at those pictures, and one thing I noticed from some of the early pictures was, I think earlier in those pictures, there was some brown hair available. And by the end, I didn't know if I was wearing a cowboy hat or that was just gray hair. I wasn't real sure, but that definitely has been the result of 32 years in the profession. I guess maybe to just try to put a bit of closure on something that is an open-ended experience is, first, I would say I offer my deepest thanks and love to my family. I could not be more blessed, and very, very proud of everyone in my family. And I just thank them for their strength and their love. I say thanks to all of you for the opportunity to be the 14th superintendent in Washoe County School District. What an honor. What a responsibility. And I'm humbled when I was selected. I leave humbled now. Our fathers or our parents leave, indelible imprints on our lives. My father always said, if you do your very best, no one can ask anything else from you. As I said at the time when I got the position, I gave you that, and I leave with that. I gave you everything. I gave her everything I could. And I'm very proud of what we've accomplished together. And I appreciate the topic of boys in the boat, because it is together. It's the trustees, it's the superintendent, it's the leadership team, it's the staff, it's the teachers, it's the parents. The whole thing is together. And, I feel like we really came together even stronger over time. And I'm really proud of what has been accomplished. I sit here today and I see us being able to move forward with some of the most transformational work in the history of Washoe County School District. We just took a step forward with the new possibilities around an administrative building, 1955. That's pretty transformational space, and I'm just incredibly grateful. Adam's in the audience. I'm incredibly grateful to Adam and his leadership on very, very hard work. I look at the STED today, and now having a framework in place and being able to use that and repeat it over time with the school closures that are in front of us. So I'm really proud that we were able to turn the corner. CIP, big item. I'm really happy that we were able to conclude with that today and know that there's great frontier in front of us. And, my heart is with Washoe County School District. I hope we all continue to capitalize on it for the benefits of the students. And, I'm just extremely proud of what we've all accomplished together. We've done really good things in Washoe County School District. You never arrive. We know that. But we're really moving in the right direction, and the work is demanding. The work is challenging, and, I can assure everybody that our team gives everything they have, from the time, the hours, to the emotion, to the passion, to the challenging, to the our team gives its very best day in and day out. I've had so many Saturday conversations and Sunday conversations and evening conversations and early morning conversation. Our team really works hard, and I hope that there will be more resources in education as we're going forward. I'll go to, I don't know if I'll ever really change, but education is an investment. It's an investment in the community. And by gosh, I hope we can keep moving towards that. I realize there's lots of factors in that, but you know, when you look at what Washoe County School District achieves with the per pupil funding and the resources that we have, it's simply remarkable. It's remarkable. So when you get the converse expressed, it's not accurate in the right context of things. And I hope that more resources can come, stable resources can come into education, because I'm confident that everyone would use them in very purposeful ways, and it would be for the benefit of our kids and ultimately all of us as we start to age and get older in our communities. So again, I very, very proud, and I know we are in exceptional hands. I look at who's in the audience. I am deeply, deeply grateful for everyone who's in the audience today for everything, and I'm confident in Mrs. McMaster and her leading Washoe County School District as a superintendent. She's an exemplary person and professional, and she knows the work in front. The team knows the work in front, and I know that they'll just keep rolling up their sleeves higher and higher, because that's what the team does. And you know, again, I just say thank you for the very nice regards. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for the support along the way, and I really wish Washoe County School District, I wish everybody the very best going forward. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm very humbled and very proud. So thank you very much.
You want to do it? You want to do a picture?
I just didn't know she was in here with the camera.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's just go do that.
Last group photo.
almost there. Thank you. We'll move to item 5.01. This is our closing items, public comment.
I have no cards.
Okay, close public comment. 5.02 is our next meeting announcement. So this concludes the school year of 25-26, and we will meet again on July 28th, 2026. Superintendent Tiffany McMaster will be with us at that meeting. That will be her first meeting, so we look forward to that. And item 5.03 is meeting adjournment, and we are adjourned at 5:32 p.m.
All right, good job.